G'day, g'day. Does it sound like I have a little New Zealander, Australian in me today? G'day, g'day. Better make sure that I'm going. The main reason we're here is to do a spaces, right? I think I just got to wait for it to. I've always been admonished to like check my collar. Stephanie, if you're watching, I'm sure you're laughing. Now I have a hood to deal with. Hope you guys are doing good. Sorry for the little distractions. What was I going to say? I was going to say something when I came on, but we do have some good news to share. There is good news all over PulseChain. If you're looking for good news, you're going to find it somewhere. I ain't looking for bad news. I am not. The bad news comes to you regardless. Isn't that true? I'm going to show my banner today. I like this banner. Okay, I think we're set. So I was going to say something, guys. Oh, are you ready to hear the Yoda? Let's listen to the Yoda. One is tuned in. Then how come I can't tune in? We need more to tune in. And I'm on. Okay. Just gotta be patient. Patient. Danya son. And make sure my volume is up. Not too loud. Check my messages. Nothing in my messages. Comments. Better check the comments. Good morning, Mr. Lemonade. I don't know what's going on with the... Is it 8 o'clock? Yeah, it's 8 o'clock. It's time. Good morning, stylist. Yes, we need more good news. Good morning, Banana. Good morning. Morning, Mikey. It's cool that you guys have this, that we're doing this. You know who suggested this? They're doing this live on YouTube. Okay. Ray Doku, you don't hear me. You don't hear me. No audio? Is there no audio? $1,500 there, huh? 15 o'clock. You hear me. Okay, so Tracy can hear me. I haven't heard from anybody else. So Ray Doku, make sure your volume's up. I was an electronics technician in the military, and it was always, okay, cool. I mean, whenever there's an electrical problem, it's always check your buttons, knobs, switches, circuit breakers, and fuses, and cycle power. If that don't work, then you really got it. You got something else. Timely catch. Yes. Or at least on YouTube. Crypto Wash. I think you're a new face around here. I don't know what's going on with the no audio on YouTube. Hold up. Let me check my mic here. Because earlier, yeah, not. I am not muted. Can you guys? Good morning, Condor. Can you guys hear me on YouTube? Put a 1 in the chat. Here we go. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me on YouTube. I don't know why you wouldn't. You hear me on YouTube. Let's clarify this. Can you hear me on YouTube? Well, you wouldn't. Thank you. You wouldn't be able to. Thank you. Wouldn't be able to hear me on Spaces because I'm not on Spaces yet. And I don't know why. So give me a second, guys. I will message the Yoda. I just got to wonder. March 29th. Yes, I'm in the correct one. Yeah, something's up, Buttercup. Right on. You guys can hear me. All right. I'm going to share some good news. All right. You guys are great. I love all the activity, the chatter, the interaction. It's like a community. It's how a community is supposed to be. So I love the Saturday morning spaces. It can get pretty lively. So are you ready for the good news? All right. Now this is like, isn't not like smashing box office, whatever you want to call it, good news. But it's, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it, man. I think you guys would too. Give me a second here and I will get on. I don't want to make you guys dizzy, and we'll get right on top of it. And then I will show you. All right, guys. Look where my highlighter is. Yes. The staking rewards have been good lately. Haven't heard back. Okay, so while we're waiting to hear back from Zen, we will just. So I'm watching for a message from him in Telegram, and I'm watching my phone, which is right here. So, all right, guys, look, we have burned 11.99% of the supply of pTGC. 11.99%. Tomorrow morning, I fully expect us to have burned 12%. A nice, beautiful, even round number, 12%. So the token supply right now is 293 billion tokens. That's the good news. Why is that good news? Because this is a deflationary asset, and the faster we can deflate it, the more value the remaining tokens become, the more valuable they become. Am I saying that right? It's so weird streaming because you mix up your words, and yeah, they'll be more valuable. The tokens that are left over. All right, guys. So 11.99% burn, and there was a debate earlier this week whether UFO was going to hit the next round number or pTGC, and I think it's going to be pTGC. However, they might. Actually, it's possible that they do it both in the same day. Let's see. If we burn, watch this. Watch this. If we burn 45 million tokens today, how come it didn't? Oh, just a second, guys. I think. All right, watch this. 45 million. And we're going to make this an equals. I can just, undo all of this. Equals. I'm doing a formula here. Equals plus 45 million. Enter. That didn't work. Where am I getting this? Let me undo it before I wreck my sheet. Can you guys hear me okay? Kind of want to make sure. I am literally waiting for Zen to jump in. I'm tripping here. It is 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. New spaces link. Okay. Never mind on that. Let's jump over and get us in. I didn't even think of that it could be a new spaces. Give me a second, guys. All right, it's loading. Come on. Oh. Yeah, is there a new spaces link?
Yes, it's in the chat that he just sent. Let me just send it to you here. Just give me 1 second.
Hayden got it over to me. I think I'm in. Yep, I'm in.
Okay,
right
so
now.
I just want to make sure you knew.
Yes, sir.
I don't think
Thanks.
he realizes we're in another space.
Good morning. Request sent. Oh, we found it. Yes. That sounds good. This is a good mic, man. It works. Mic is
What's
on.
up, Banana? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, for some reason when I opened the scheduled one, just automatically shut it down and kicked me out of Twitter. So
Oh,
I ended
weird.
up, yeah. I don't know. It's been a little buggy for us lately. I feel like those like pre-scheduled ones, every time I go to open them, something's going on.
Do you want to just maybe next week just announce it and then start or not next week, but like the next time we have spaces, just start it? Because we could do that, actually.
No, I think it's fine how we're doing it. Just keep on your radar. If you don't see it start up, it means I had to start up a new one.
Okay.
It's happening pretty frequently, but we're here. We
Yeah.
made it.
Yep. And pTGC has burned 11.99% of its supply as of today.
We're getting there. Almost going to cross the 12.
Yeah. It's a
You know,
milestone.
one thing that's helped speed that up in the last couple days?
One thing that help you what?
You know, one thing that's helped speed that up in the last couple days?
Yes, I do.
Let's hear it.
It's the lower price. I mean, even though volume has been low also, that contract is able to scoop up more tokens because the price has been low. That's just how it works.
Yeah, that, and there was a specific other thing that's been unique in the last few days that a lot of people have been benefiting off of.
Give me a second. I can't put a finger on anything.
You love to talk about it. That's your hint.
I love to talk about it. Oh, man. Well, I'm under such pressure right now. Being live and everything.
Such pressure, Zed. Such pressure on Prairie, bro. Like, I'm feeling the weight. We've had. Go ahead, Banana. You got it.
I think Hans maybe give me a clue. End locks.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Yep. Because when people end their lock, if they're not 100% locked, they're burning tokens.
Which most aren't.
Yes, that is a very excellent point. And I can add to that. Let me get to the correct tab here because I have been tracking the unlocks for, I think, since December. And I'm keying in on the 30-day total because last year we burned 395 million every 30 days on average. As of today, if you go back 30 days, we've burned 611 million. Not burned, I'm sorry. Unlocked. Early unlocked. 610 million if you go back 30 days, which is the biggest I've seen on record.
Yeah, that's definitely why I was bringing it up, because this is an important metric that has increased, but when it increases, it actually makes the system stronger, right? There's more buy-in birds happening from that increase, and also people who have locked in the last year and a half are getting some juicy rewards in the last month off of their locks.
Can you tell me this, guys? It's one thing I don't know. If you're locked, when you receive the early end lock rewards, does that go into your claimable rewards, or does it goes into what you just claim that, right?
Yeah, it's in a separate box. So like where you claim your rewards, the staking box, like you claim those separately than you're locking, right? They don't land into the same pool and you claim them all at once. But yes, those rewards are claimable at any point.
Wow, that's awesome,
man. Yeah, so just in the last 3 days, like yesterday there was 30 million early unlocked. The day before that, 61 million, and the day before that, 239 million. We don't know if it's one person or more than one. That's just we just know the total. And so, for example, yesterday, that 30 million that was early end locked, if you had for every 1 million pTGC, let me make sure I'm saying this right. For every 1 million pTGC that you have locked, 100% locked, it earned 65 pTGC. So you guys can do the math on that. So if you have 100 million, just multiply 65 times 100, and that's how many pTGC that lock would have earned. And thank you, Hans, for the tip too, by the way.
I know. I was ready for you to have your guns blazing to bring up this subject.
Frere, you're sleeping, bro.
This was like
you need some coffee, man.
Yeah, I learned something new every day, man.
Yeah, this was Banana's call to action. Like, I was ready for him to come in here being like, I told all of you guys, we're earning so much from locking. But, you know, the cool thing about it also is the people who aren't locking out 10 years, they're also benefiting the system in their own way, right? Because when they claim, those tokens are just going to the debt address to never be in the system again. So the people who are out 10 years are helping the system by being out so far. But then the people who are more short-term mindset are helping the system because they're 45% of their claimable rewards are just getting sent to the debt address to never enter the system again. I personally think we're probably over the 12%. I just don't think those people have, I don't think everyone has claimed yet, because the burn doesn't happen until they claim.
Exactly. Yes, we are over 12%. At 11.99, we must be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
So, yay. It's a milestone. I love it. I can't wait till we're about 25%. Wonder how long it'll take. You know,
if price keeps going up, it will take a long time because it's dependent on the price of pTGC. When we drop into lower levels, the buy and burn ramps up, especially if dollar value stays or volume level stays relevant. We'll buy and burn tons of the supply at lower levels. But when price goes up, even with volume increase, you'll see it slow down, not in dollar value wise. Like the dollar value wise, it will ramp up, but quantity of tokens, it will naturally decrease just because the tokens cost more money to burn.
Yeah. We're burning about 4 squid positions every day. I wonder what a squid position costs nowadays.
Have you noticed the ratio over the last 2 days?
Yeah, it's been ticking up.
Yeah, it has.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's moving up nice against Pulse.
Yep. Let's see. This would have been, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, Wednesday, I recorded 8.88. Thursday, 9.26. Friday, 9.7. And today, 10.2. And let's see if we can get a average holders 30-day average. Let me get a 30-day average on holders.
Just
26 new holders every day, even for the past 30 days. With everything that's happening, we're still adding holders.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be at 14,000 holders soon. It is definitely growing.
It's like we just passed 10,000. I mean, do you remember it was like just a few months ago that we passed 10,000? It was I think it was maybe in December.
So I don't know if you guys just switching gears 1 second, Barry. A few hours ago, market maker came in and set basically a limit order in the LPs with 104 billion pulse and 2.12 million EDI. Effectively just saying, I'm willing to buy down here at these prices. You can speculate as to who that is. That specific amount of liquidity would buy over 1 trillion pulse. So you have somebody protecting that new level there, or willing to buy it lower. And if you exclude the OA in terms of the amount of token supply for PLS, it's about 134 trillion. You exclude that, that leaves 16 trillion. But there's way less than that on the float, which means that $2.12 million at the current price would buy over 1 trillion coins, which represents 1/16 of the entire excluded OA amount.
Whoa.
Yeah. So down here at these levels, benevolent, people who are willing to purchase and essentially set limit orders down here to be able to pick up pulse for people to sell into or lower. If you've got, individuals doing that, what that means is that somebody's picking it up down here, and the OA owns a lot, but the more that gets into the hands of the OA, in my opinion, the better.
Yes.
So I think that it's interesting to see that there was a very nice LP position that just went into PulseX about 6 hours ago. And that represents almost 1 trillion coins it sold into.
And where are you finding that, Mando?
It's on DBank.
Okay.
Yeah, I posted it into the TG.
Oh.
Yeah, that's definitely nice to see, Mando. That is it our age? Who knows? But some actors are willing to put very, very large lump sums of value into LP right now to support the price at that level and also scoop up any PLS if it goes any cheaper via that LP position. Because as PLS drops, or if PLS drops, they would be giving up their stable coins and they would be receiving PLS token. And if PLS kept going down, they ultimately would just be receiving more PLS for that stable coin that they're willing to give up due to how V2 liquidity works. So the lower PLS goes, the more they're going to be getting for the dollar value. So it actually would end up equaling a lot
more. Yeah, you'd get more pulse for that. Yep.
Especially depending on when they close it down. They might ride it all the way down and all the way back up and just rake in the fees.
It's just interesting to bring it up. Most people don't pay attention to that kind of a thing. But yeah, that was a pretty nice limit. That was a pretty nice LP position that was just put in there with 104 billion on one side. It's a lot of pulse.
Yes, that's a bucket ton. I like what you dropped in the chat this morning about the market conditions. BTC being at 82,000, Ethereum is under 2,000, and you mentioned a couple other things too that are suppressing the market. SEC FUD, PDI FUD, Atropa FUD, tariffs FUD, war FUD, recession FUD. So
it's important to have those broader market topics. I mean,
yes.
And then on top of that, last month we had moves that decentivized for market makers to continue to add LP, which really thinned out the liquidity on chain. Yes, that's great for price appreciation. It's easier to see X multipliers on assets with lower liquidity weight, but that obviously also works in the opposite direction. So, people had to know that when those moves decentivized people with way less ink rewards to thicken up those LPs, essentially, everyone was decentivized to continue to provide LP. right? Yes, it's great for a pump, but it also makes it a lot easier for the price to come down with higher velocities, right? So this is to be expected with everything going on. Hindsight is always 2020, guys, right? No one has a crystal ball except for Naga, and his shit don't work. So, you know, but it's always hindsight. You can kind of see what's going on. But the fact that it's down here at these new lows and pTGC is operating really well. It's operating at a level, at an efficiency level that we haven't seen before. Because when Pulse comes down to these levels and the amount of volume continues in the system's able to pick up way more Pulse and distribute way more pTGC as yield because the prices are low. So it's running very efficiently. And, you know, these are some of the things that you just have to pay attention to and learn about if you really want to understand how this specific system works. But I just wanted to bring up that LP position. I thought that was an interesting side note.
Mm-hmm. There was an interesting Spaces yesterday. Somebody DM'd me, actually, Shaka DM'd me about it. And I jumped in there. There were 200 people in that Spaces. And I don't know who said.
You mean the one where I was on with Panos? Or which
one? Yeah, with Panos. And another guy, Habibi, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Something like that. And there were a lot of people. I counted about 8 gold circles, which is cool. And then, so we were represented, and there's more pTGC holders in there than just the 8 gold circles, guys. But we were well represented, but there were a lot of people in there that I didn't recognize. And I scanned the list multiple times, followed a bunch of people, but you know, there's 200, I think at most I saw about 220 people in there. And there was a lot of discussion about pTGC. And so, you know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people were asking great questions. You had Haunted in there asking me questions. You had Panos asking really, really good questions. You had a lot of people I've never seen coming up. And, you know, people are wanting to get educated on what's going on. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're looking for, I mean, a lot of these people are getting wrecked on, you know, maybe their hobby horse was PDI, and here they are getting wrecked on it. And so they're looking for something else that they can lean into that will take them to Valhalla. Well, we have pTGC and UFO over here, and people are more likely to take a second look at us.
I just want to remind everybody that we hold these spaces more so for engagement and community engagement, or for people to come up and ask questions and dialogue about the market, than to just have a bunch of people talking at you. So please feel free to raise your hand or to come up. We'd love to talk to anybody that's up in here. Trevor, thanks for being here. Shaka, Captain, Crypto Stylist, Crypto Nomad, everybody, thank you for being in here. Feel free to come up and have a chat. What do we got?
I have something I kind of wanted to bring up that was on the subject a little bit of PulseChain being at these levels. Mando kind of goes off of what you were talking about with how an entity was somewhat supporting or looking how these low levels actually really bullish for the pTGC system if users are interested in X's, which obviously I believe most users, that's like their main interest. So if you want, I can kind of switch the gears to that.
Yeah, is this the information that was kind of based on your post from yesterday?
I think I posted it yesterday, maybe the day before.
The day before? Yeah, if you could go over that's some great information. And like if we could just put it out in layman terms, that'd be great.
Yeah, maybe if you want, just start with the post, or I can just say it. Banana, would you want to bring up that post real quick?
Yes. Just tell me where to find it. Is it on?
It was on my personal.
Okay.
The Gray 360.
All right.
Yeah, I can read the post if you like.
Yeah, either of you.
Okay.
I think that's a good place to start, and then we can kind of dig into it a little bit. If we're digging into it, if anyone has any questions and needs help understanding certain parts of it, free to request to speak. If you can ask about it in detail if there's an aspect that you're looking for clarification on.
Okay, so let me go ahead and just read it. It's a short post. That's why I like it. It says the pTGC and UFO opportunity. With PLS at such a low price, it maximizes the potential of the X multiplier. Now that PLS has hit an all-time low or new all-time lows, the X multiplier has even greater potential. The X multiplier makes it easier to achieve a 100x return if the blockchain and project demonstrate sustainability and longevity. For example, since August, pTGC has achieved a 10x increase against PLS. Meanwhile, PLS is currently 12x below its all-time high. So if pTGC continues its past trend and PLS returns to its all-time high, you could see a 100x gain from current price levels. This is not financial advice. I don't know what the future holds, but I wanted to highlight an opportunity at these levels with some relatively achievable goals.
Yeah, thank you, Mando. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I do believe a lot of people within crypto, especially right now, just the sentiment on PulseChain, are feeling sometimes a little bit confused on the direction they should be going. They don't know where to park value. They feel like probably where they have parked value, for an example, if you've parked value in Pulse, right? Pulse has been trending downwards for ultimately a year and a half, and these users, a lot of them sacked, I believe, 4 years ago, right? And I do believe those positions will one day turn out to be very, very nice positions in value terms when the time is right? Like the time hasn't been right yet. But what I wanted to bring up is what we have with UFO is a very unique system, a system that has capability, that has mechanics, machines operating in the back end, and it has the ability to do X's over the blockchain, right? So you technically can make multiples of the blockchain token by holding the asset that has mechanics to outperform the blockchain. Is that guaranteed? It's absolutely not guaranteed. There's all chance that the blockchain overperforms, but we can study the past of pTGC and UFO and make educated guesses of the future. And what we can see with pTGC and UFO is every time the things we're connected to ramp up, that doesn't just bring our price up, but it actually makes the machine operate at higher levels. And when the machine is operating at higher levels, it makes it so the machine actually outperforms the things that they're attached to. If you add in human interaction, if humans are buying, it makes it outperform it even more. If people are selling, it either brings it down to an even level or maybe underperforms. But in the past, it's never underperformed in these times. Every time the blockchain has moved up, pTGC has moved up more, UFO has moved up more. But where I'm getting at is a lot of people are here to make exits, right? If that's to exit, that's just to see their portfolio become bigger. If that's to make X's and that value to an asset pays them yield, case of yield, that's why yield is built into pTGC. But the truth is with PulseChain tapping these all-time lows, it actually gives a unique opportunity to make these X's very, very easily. For an example, just a few months ago, pTGC was at a 20-to-1 ratio to Pulse. So it was up more than double, right? So we actually have gotten an extreme discount with pTGC to the PLS level. And we've actually seen a very strong support level here at the 10-to-1. Maybe Banana wants to pull up the pTGC to PLS ratio chart. For the last, I think it's week and a half, we've seen extreme amounts of support here. Is it for sure going to hold that? I don't know, but we've had a ton of things get thrown at the ecosystem. PDI falling, other RH coins falling harder than PLS, but we've seen a lot of strength at this level. But then what we see is PLS is at extreme discounts right now. So just by PLS going to old all-time highs, that's a 10x. So you can get a 10 multiplier by entering into the system of pTGC just right now. And then you have to ask yourself is, what do you believe pTGC and UFO will do over this? And since August, we are still currently up a 10x against the blockchain. At our all-time highs, we were a 20x up against the blockchain. So even if you didn't sell the perfect top, you're still up 10x against the blockchain. So in this example, let's say PulseChain just gets up to its all-time highs. That's not asking that much. Like, I personally believe it's going to do much more. But then if pTGC performs like it has in the past, you could be sitting anywhere between a 200x from these levels or a 100x from these levels when PulseChain goes back up to old all-time highs. And kind of sit back and ask yourself, like, when you came to crypto, wasn't that what you're looking for? Weren't you looking for, this is personally what I was looking for, that's why I bring it up. Maybe you're looking for something different, but I do believe it's all in the category of what users were looking for, is a system where they could possibly do 100, 200x, a system where there was enough liquidity to not only back you, but also back a lot of the community within the system. A system that pays you APY for helping holding up the price, constantly becoming more scarce every single day, and a system that has mechanics in the background that's helping perform this. Not a promise that this is going to happen in the future or a hope that adoption happens. There's actually a lot of things that are happening in real time that were set up a year and a half ago and have proven themselves to work very wonderfully. And I just kind of think that's important to look at, is because a lot of people are bummed with PulseChain at these levels, but how I look at it is this makes the X multiplier that much easier. That makes 100x that much easier the lower PulseChain goes, especially with when we are seeing pTGC kind of finding a bottom, right? We see the support 10-to-1. So if PulseChain keeps going lower, how I look at it is it becomes easier and easier to do 100x off that floor. Maybe 200x, 500x, 1000x. Depends on the success of the blockchain, right? But the lower it goes, the less success we need.
I was doing a little bit of figuring in my calculator while you were talking and looking in my records. So when pTGC first went 10-to-1 with Pulse, it was January 13th. But Pulse at that time was 53% higher than it is right now. We're 10-to-1 with Pulse right now. It first went 10-to-1 on January 13th when Pulse was 53% higher. So what does that mean for when Pulse goes up to just where it was in January?
That's bullish.
Yeah, that's just
absolutely
free 2x right there.
That's bullish as hell.
So while while pTGC has been coming down, we've all watched it coming down in price, but it is actually still going up in value against the layer one while it's coming down in price. It just makes my head spin.
I want to put this out here real quick, because I feel like it's just more realistic math. At the all-time high of pTGC, which was essentially 0.0013, which is about a 45x from here, right? We were a 6.5x away from 1 cent at that point, right? You can just put it at a 7x if you want. So at that point, at that price, every 100 million pTGC was worth $130,000 at the all-time high of pTGC. Right now, it costs about just over $20,000 to buy that same 100 million coins, right? So it was at 130,000 to purchase 100 million. Now it's at just over 20,000 to purchase 100 million. And at a 6.5x from the all-time high, every 100 million would be worth a cold $1 million. So when we're in a situation where people are talking about a broken protocol going to $1, I think it's a better narrative to talk about pTGC going back to 1 cent and then doing a 6.5x from there, right? Or going back to all-time highs and then potentially doing a 6.5x from there and going to 1 cent. What that on a lower level is if you purchase about $5,800 right now, and it does a 6.5x above its previous all-time high, that's $250,000. Those are real numbers. Those are real numbers. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but those are real numbers with a real protocol that is tested and is phenomenal, right? So you can really see on a reversal of Richard Hart's blockchain, we were only a 6.5x away from every 100 million tokens being worth $1 million, or a $5,800 purchase now being worth $250,000. That's more realistic to me than playing around with crazy narratives on the blockchain. To me, that's a very, very good speculation on PulseChain.
Yeah, Mando, I kind of just wanted to bring this up because when I really started educating people on how the X multiplier works, I know Richard Hart's always talked about this. He called it reflexivity in law. The idea of breaking it down into the X multiplier idea was, which I'd say somewhat of my discovery on a way to educate people on it. And when I started educating people on this and explaining how easy a 100x is for a sustainable system on an undervalued blockchain, this was around June, July, August time of 2024, right? And this was around the bottoms of PulseChain. And this was also around the bottoms in that microcycle of pTGC. And it feels so similar to right now is where I'm getting at, is PulseChain was at these levels, pTGC was at its lows of that microcycle, right? And I was educating people on the idea of how easy it is to do a 100x due to the X multiplier, 10x on the blockchain and a 10x with the protocol that has sustainability, longevity, and actual liquidity to back it. The actual liquidity part is a key feature because in a lot of systems you can do X, but if there's not enough liquidity liquidity for a decent amount of the users. Usually just one user takes all of that and doesn't even let it try, and it just shoves it back down to ground level. You never get those exits. Or mechanics that keep help driving it up, etc. So sustainability is key. But what I'm getting at is when I started educating on this, people didn't fully understand it because they didn't realize that when you have the blockchain going up and the token going up, it's not an addition thing, right? It's a multiplication. You actually are able to multiply those numbers together. And multiplying those numbers together make it very easy to do crazy amounts of X's. But even think back into the past about how this operated. From June until June, August, September, that area, to our all-time highs, pTGC, this is like a few month period, did a 66x. A 66x. Guess what the X multiplier was in that event? It was only a 3x. We only got help by PulseChain by a 3x. And our system was able to pull off a 66x due to the X multiplier. We are currently 10x away from all-time highs on PulseChain. There's still opportunity with PulseChain levels, and our system is running better than ever. Last time we were at these lows of PulseChain, we were seeing very low volume days mechanically, right? The machine was still growing. Well, now that we're at these levels again, we have more liquidity. We have more natural volume. We can actually see the system landing at higher levels, even though the blockchain is landing at lower levels. So with the blockchain just going up to all-time highs, right? This is what I'm bringing up. A 10x on the blockchain and a 10x on pTGC or UFO is so easily achievable. In the last example, when I was educating people on a 10x on the blockchain and a 10x on pTGC, on the pTGC side, we blew right through that. We conquered the 10x like it was a walk in the park. Yeah, PulseChain fell a little short, but that doesn't mean that I do believe PulseChain is going to have its time to where it runs right through its 10x as well. And with how we know the machine operates, it makes this X multiplier, this 100x, 200x, very easily achievable with a strong community, sustainable system, mechanics working in your favor, built-in APY, the things that we're leaning on as a community. Because you have to pay attention to the reason and the reason why you're in this protocol and lean on these things. Because they're not changing. Protocol is where APY can be adjusted, where inflated token supplies are coming out to where there's more tokens now, so your share of the percentage of the supply is constantly getting shrunken and shrunken and shrunken. It's actually growing, right? Your percentage of APY is growing. The tokens are becoming more scarce. You can see the volume mechanically ramping up. So the fact that all these things are happening at these low levels, and we've seen what it's done in the past. You can even go back another microcycle further. And in that time, PulseChain, I think, did a 5x, and we still did a 10x against the blockchain. This isn't the third time that PulseChain is happening at low levels. Both previous times, we've done over a 10x as our X multiplier. Sadly, PulseChain has fallen a little short, but what that creates in my mind is opportunity. What that shows me is we've been able to fulfill our side of that 100x easily each time. We just need PulseChain now to kind of step and do it. We're not dependent on it, right? We keep winning X's on our own.
Awesome. Very true. Coop, you got a question?
Yeah. Thanks, Mando. Then, yeah, it's great to hear what you're talking about, and completely agree with everything you're saying. Yeah, it's just a waiting game at the moment, I guess. Listen, the reason I came up, I wanted to add something to this. I've just been looking at the charts over the last couple of days, and I've found something very interesting to add to Mando, what you're saying, and Zen as well. So we all understand and everyone, most people here are thinking that, in their minds, once PulseChain starts moving, that we're really going to start moving. But there's something in the charts that show a bit of an anomaly. That so from the 23rd of August 24, pTGC started when I feel it started, it broke out from the lows and it started that massive uptrend of that 66x that you're talking about. So at that time, and on the exact day, I'm looking at PulseChain. PulseChain actually, from the 23rd of August 2024, all the way through to about the 10th of September 2024, was actually down and sideways. And I remember that time because it really started moving in my entire portfolio. Nothing else was really moving, and pTGC just started to run and it woke up. And I really remember that time. And that window of about, what's that, about 15, so almost, sort of 2 to 3 weeks, the blockchain was actually moving, but we had started a big run. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, because we were really starting to crank up at that time, and that was that start, but everything else wasn't really moving. So the Parts law, works as standard, but this, this UFO pTGC, I feel like there's another catalyst there that allows us to start just moving by ourselves. And just want to see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that catalyst was people started to learn how the system works, and you started to have a lot of humans buying it up. So humans buying up the chart will easily counteract any downtrend in PulseChain, because the weight of liquidity in this ecosystem is nowhere near the weight of liquidity in PulseChain. So you got a lot of human buying coming in, which we did at that point. It's just going to obliterate a 17% downtrend over 3 weeks for Pulse.
And so I'm just wondering then, and that's great here. And then, so when that wave, and will start again, when that starts happening again, and now the PulseChain's at these lows, people are probably thinking, well, maybe I'll just jump on that once the PulseChain starts moving up. And what I'm trying to point out is that it's accumulating now, because at any given time, our run could start a lot earlier than anything else on the chain.
No, 100%. I'm buying right now every day. So I agree with you.
Yeah, fantastic. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that it's not just the fact that PulseChain's going to start moving up, but it'll allow us to move up and start increasing the value of our tokens. It can happen when it's moving down as well.
Well, look at it right now. We're in a moment like that right now. Right? Pulse is going down, but if you look at the ratio in pTGC, we kind of wicked down into a 8 range.
Anyway,
Yeah, and now we're moving back up at the 10. So even though Pulse actually overnight went down pretty hard, we're actually moving up against it again.
Yeah, it's great to see. Anyway, I just thought I'd come up and add that. I thought that was a good sort of point in the charts to point out to everyone that there's some serious strength in this ecosystem, and it's something to really take.
Yeah. One thing I remember about that time is we were tapping the 0.5 pTGC, 0.6 pTGC to 1 pulse a few times at that point. Like if you go back on our chart and look at the pTGC to PLS ratio, the 0.5, 0.6 pTGC to 1 PLS was hit like 5 times, like throughout the whole year. And we then consolidated at that 0.5 line instead of like bouncing up to it and then coming down. And just in that time is where we heavily broke out of that point of range, right? Against the blockchain, not USD. So if you even look at the chart from that time, you know, that September, we were trending up against the blockchain. That covered a lot of ground. That's where we broke the 1-to-1 ratio with pTGC to PLS, and then we kind of just kept going. And like Mando
right.
said,
It was actually around that time as well, the 23rd of August, around the 17th to the 23rd. Yeah, you're right. 25, and we really started climbing against Pulse.
And like Mando said, at that point, I think a lot of people started to recognize the strength of pTGC, the fact of how strong the machine is behind them, supporting them, which then adds to the human, and like, because then humans are like, oh, okay, it's not just dependent on users coming in, and I don't have to just rely on their emotions, right? This machine actually has support other than that. Like, this is worth grabbing a position in. There's more than just a standard token. And that ramp up against the blockchain, in my opinion, was users actually starting to understand the capability of the machine, which even though the blockchain was moving down, we were actually garnering a decent amount of attention due to people just finally kind of putting 2 and 2 together. Like we say, like, once you see it, you can't see it. You kind of run the math on your own, and it kind of takes people to, like, I've gotten this so many times, like, I started running the numbers and multiplying it out, and when I've ran the numbers and multiplied it out, I start hitting numbers that almost feel unbelievable, right? And if anyone has done that, right? Like, I've done it every day for the last 2 years, and you hit numbers that feel unbelievable with that velocity. So it kind of, asking yourself, users will go in phases of asking themselves this, and I feel like that's when we start really outperforming the blockchain, is when that kind of starts circulating. It feels like it starts circulating all at the same time, and it's when we start to outperform the blockchain a little bit, because people are like, oh, damn, like the X multiplier is working right in front of me, and I'm in the wrong asset, right? PLS doesn't have a real X multiplier. Technically against Ethereum, what's interesting about PulseChain is it's like an X multiplier on Ethereum because it's connected to Ethereum. But then we like are so many levels down from that because we're connected to Pulse. And then Pulse has its own assets with the X multiplier, which is like Pulse X, Ink, and Hex, because those are connected to Pulse. So those are going to act with the X multiplier. But then we're connected to those. So we're like 4 steps down on the X multiplier. But then the key thing is we have as much liquidity as some of these top assets. So we're at the end of the line, but we have enough value to actually back us like we're at the front of the line, which makes it just super powerful. And I think when people see us start to uptrend against Pulse, it clicks for them like, wow, I'm missing out on multiplying my portfolio, right? Just like if you put 1 million Pulse in and then pTGC, if you put 1 million Pulse in, or let's say 100 Pulse in August 15th, you still up 20x on that Pulse. So you have 2 billion Pulse now. You multiplied it.
Yeah,
and now you
it's
just
10
need Pulse.
Yeah,
now you just need Pulse to do its thing, and you're sitting gravy. But those are the people. It does take a little bit of risk, you know, and you have to move before the general public to scoop the discounts at that level or the discounts you are today. You 100% can wait for the confirmation, right? Like a lot of people, I feel like, waited for that confirmation for the 1-to-1, and those users are still up heavily, right? They're up 10x. So they turned the 100 million Pulse into 1 billion, which is still awesome. But and that's where I was talking about earlier is when you see PulseChain going to these super low levels and you see pTGC kind of consolidating, in the past, these have been the best opportunities to get the positions because even though it doesn't feel like a lot, like the 0.5 PLS or pTGC to 1 pTGC per PLS, but that's multiplication on your portfolio. That's doubling your portfolio. If it went in a little bit lower, you DCA'd again, let's say it dropped another 50%, well, it's just going back to that 1-to-1, that's actually a 4x on your portfolio.
Yeah,
so
that's a huge difference.
Getting into the depth of the blockchain and the depth of a sustainable protocol, right? It doesn't make sense to buy a project that's just going down forever. That's not going to save you. But the real sustainable ones that have the longevity, that have the community backing it, taking advantage of discounted prices can very much multiply your portfolio out. So when the blockchain does and the market does recover, you're not sitting with the same amount of PLS that you were a year ago, right? You can actually multiply these systems out by just putting those assets in the right assets, by converting it to something that's actually mechanically driven to keep appreciating. My best example of this is in the real world, if you had a decent amount of fiat, the worst thing you can really do with that fiat is just hold that fiat and stuff it under that mattress. The best thing you could do with that fiat is convert it to an asset that outperforms fiat in dividends and in price appreciation. There's plenty of them. If you don't do that, you are actually losing because people who are doing that are outpacing you.
And that's actually a great point because that begs the question then. Before PulseChain as the next wave of onboarding users come across the bridge, I think there's still an opportunity that when we start going again, like we did from that or when you're saying 15th to the around that middle of August day 2024, we started trending up from that 0.5 PLS, and then everyone caught on that this is it's trending up strongly against PLS, and new users came into like Mando. That's new users coming in to switch their tokens across to pTGC and then this ecosystem. I think there's still opportunity another wave of that to happen before get that big wave, people coming across from other chains and crypto, because of the fact that I think Banana was mentioning before that we've almost hit that 14,000 user mark for pTGC. But if you then compare that against a few of the other tokens on the good performing tokens that have performed well on the ecosystem, and I'm going to bring up a few here, for example, such as a Tropa or Teddy Bear or and I know that there's issues with the ecosystem quite significantly, but they had well over 14,000 users. Yeah, just a point to bring up. There's opportunity there, and I think that once the ball starts rolling and on these assets again, both pTGC and UFO, I think
Yeah, I have numbers now, but we were kind of going over it a couple months ago. As far as holder count, one thing that I found their deck screener is the quantity of holders that hold over $1,000 worth, right? Because if or even $500 worth, I'm not trying, obviously in every different country, there's different units of measure where buying pressure and buying opportunity is a lot less than the United States. So maybe you can even shrink that down a little bit, but you kind of have to ask yourself, how many wallets in the system actually hold over $500 worth? because that's a real holder, not someone who's holding $5 worth, like just dust from when they were in the system earlier. I don't really look at that as a real holder. That's someone that was in the system and left the system with their entire bag, right? Or maybe they just dropped $5 in just as a, hey, for some reason this is the next thing, at least I put $5 in something. So I do think you need to kind of go into those wallets and see how many of those wallets actually hold $500, $1,000 worth. They're real holders. Those are the people that actually have skin in the game, or a form of skin in the game, and care about the project being successful. And when we run those numbers, I believe it was either 1,000 or 3,000 people. Banana, if you remember correctly, I'd appreciate.
So then that, I mean, look, if it was 3,000, then that gives more weight to what we're discussing here. That you know, hopefully there's another wave and shift of current PulseChain enthusiasts that want to park their money somewhere, somewhere that's a lot more stable and understand the fundamentals of this ecosystem.
It's irrefutable. It's undisputably what's happening, right? Especially when you learn how the system works, because the system allows you to have. Look, if you're on PulseChain, just sitting in PulseChain or Hex or PulseX or whatever, you're downtrending, right?
At the moment.
Okay, but really, what if there's something that can give you exposure to those things because you believe in the long-term reality of those things, but that can amplify performance while those very things are what underpin the value of the thing that's overperforming?
It becomes a no-brainer, man.
And is a hyper-deflationary currency, and is a revenue-generating currency, and is a yield-paying currency.
Yeah.
All the X's of the things that you like, but actually has a lesser weight of liquidity, which means that it can do much more X on top of the X of the thing that you like. So if you're in PulseChain, the greatest currency represents a phenomenal cryptocurrency, because it's a proxy of the entire Richard Hart ecosystem, but it's a performance amplifier that is literally like a symbiotic. It's like a I don't know how to. It's something akin to like an alien that just attached itself to the entire system, that can outperform the entire system because of math.
What an entire system as well. Really.
And it's also healthy for the system because it burns PulseChain and it burns PulseX, and it gets people into games, and then they can sell their Drays if they want. Go buy this, go buy that, and it just helps the whole system. It's a give and take. It's a really beneficial, reciprocal environment.
It's like the opposite to a value extraction type scenario, which is, but on steroids, which is fantastic, and it gets me so bullish. So excited to see the next period that we're about to enter. Anyway, thanks, team. Send those comments. I'll drop back now and let anyone else come up to ask questions.
Thank you for coming up. We appreciate it when people do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kun, I kind of wanted to finish on when we were talking about the wallets real quick. So I do believe it's around like 3,000 people that hold more than $1,000 worth. It's maybe less now because we ran these numbers a while ago, like a few months ago, and pTGC's gone down, UFO's gone down, also PulseChain's gone down, so it might even be like 1,000 at this point, right? So 1,000 people hold a decent amount of pTGC. That's nothing. That pretty much tells me no one even knows pTGC exists in this world. And another thing I like to look at as far as like people even knowing PulseChain exists is most token, right? Most token's been tweeted about Richard. That only has like 5,000 holders, and that's been literally tweeted about the founder of the blockchain a solid amount of times at this point. It's been out for a few months. It's been tweeted about the founder. Only 5,000 people hold it. How many of those 5,000 people even hold a decent amount? Probably like 1,000, right? And then you go to Inc. incentive token where no one sacrificed. You have to be participating in the blockchain to even get your hands on that token by being a farmer, right? Or by buying it off the market. But it wasn't like you sacrificed 4 years ago when Hex was pumping to get this, right? And there's only 55,000 holders of Inc. But you have to then also rewind. How many of those wallets hold a decent amount? I would say at least only half. And out of that half, how many holders are repeat holders? They have more than one wallet. I would guess that there is legitimately 10,000 real holders of Inc. So then you have to ask yourself, there's pretty much only 10,000 people here on PulseChain actually participating with PulseChain. What that tells me is there's so much opportunity here on PulseChain. No one in this world even knows PulseChain exists, let alone pTGC or UFO exists. So what that equals is maximum upside potential. No one even knows that we're here with this amazing asset that's literally changing lives every single day with just a minute amount of adoption to the blockchain or to this asset is a huge game changer for anyone taking advantage of opportunities.
Yeah.
At discounts.
Crazy to think about. Then the upside is just, you know, when the floodgates open, and they will open on PulseChain, and I'm a betting man, and I would have to say that this cycle will run the remaining time we have left. It's going to happen. Yeah, the upside to what you're saying, to what we're pointing out now, is just, yeah, it's hard to comprehend because you just don't know.
And then when you think about the fact that the system can add to its organism, if you will, it can add to its web the best blue chips on chain anytime it wants. For example, when most deployed and are tires, the Dow waited just a few days, let the price come down, took a spot. It currently has the number 52 spot in most and has one of the top 5 LPs. That LP paid for itself in 4 days. So the token holders of pTGC are exposed to a top 50-something position in most that came from revenue from the system that is currently generating PulseChain that just continuously goes back into the system to burn coins, to add more LP. And this never stops, right? So, but you can see that if you look at the web in terms of like what the DAO puts into the web, it's nothing but quality assets. It's nothing but the best assets. Yes, some of it's speculative. The other thing that's so powerful is if you understood, and most people don't, if you understood the amount of pressure, the amount of just grift, the amount of buying out people out of their positions that this protocol has endured and is still sitting here after the PDI FUD, after one of the biggest parts of the web came down, and the way that it did, at the velocity that it did, with the Astropa coins that it did, and now it was one of the kind of the mental monkeys on the back of the system that a lot of people was wondering a lot of the time. Hey, you know, what happens if PDI isn't really going to peg and it goes down to 0 or whatever? And that was kind of like one of those things where people would wonder about that. Well, guess what? That monkey's off the back now. And the system sitting here is the numbers that we're talking about. It's people don't really realize what's happening here, man.
Yeah,
yes.
We passed that test with flying colors. Like that is,
and people are seeing that right now, especially over the last 7 days. People are seeing that.
That's great to hear. Because really, the people that decide to jump into this system, you know, with a significant portion of their portfolios over the next 1 to before we start really again. I mean, it's just going to. I mean, it's like once you're in, you really start seeing the benefits, and then it just starts opening up what crypto's really about for you. Anyway, that's a great chat. Thanks, gents. I'll drop back and let other people come up.
Yeah, if anyone else wants to come up, feel free to raise your hand, request to speak, and we'll bring you up. Going off of that, yeah, I think, the amount of holders that shows on Dex Screener, it feels good seeing it tick up because you can kind of compare that to other assets. But when you really dive into the wallets, you actually start to realize that we're so early, right? We're so early here on PulseChain. We're so early here in pTGC and UFO. Even in general in crypto, we're so early. So if crypto gets adoption with a successful year in crypto, with Trump being his president, with PulseChain being even remotely successful, it just equals so much opportunity for things like pTGC and UFO, right? As value comes on chain, the value on chain actually fuels this machine. As value enters into pTGC and UFO, the value that enters into pTGC is automatically used to generate revenue for the system, where that revenue constantly feedback loops into it, pushing the price up for price appreciation, which then helps onboard and so on and so forth. And I still believe that we haven't even gotten to see this even really happen yet. I believe if PulseChain starts to trend up here soon or in the future, right, and the chart becomes a non-sinking ship, because right now I've talked about this so many times, I've tried to onboard people to PulseChain that are decent players in the world of finance, and as of right now, you can't onboard them to PulseChain. They know that there's an SEC case, or they know Richard in general, and they don't currently like how he's labeled, or they see the PulseChain chart and they're not willing to risk their value in the PulseChain chart. But with a reversal, with an uptrend, they are willing to take that bet. With an SEC case dismissal or drop, they're willing to take that bet. It's just as of right now, they're not willing to take the bet of buying these cheap prices, which cheap prices are the maximum opportunity. Also, a little bit of risk, but when you kind of zoom out, it's usually the minimum amount of risk. When you're buying the all-time lows of the blockchain and the microcycle lows of the asset on top of it, yeah, from an outsider looking in, they feel it's too risky. But when you're an insider that's just like breathing these systems, what this actually means is this is actually the least risky spot to take advantage of the system for maximum upside potential.
If you're on PulseChain, absolutely. If you're on PulseChain, it's like, hey, I sit here and I think to myself that if you're on PulseChain right now, you're essentially a PulseChain Richard Hart believer, right? There's no way you're here now if that's not true. You believe in the future of PulseChain, regardless of what anybody says or the situation. You're just a diehard. You're just a diehard. You believe in what's been built, right? But you have to ask yourself right now, what do you want that, if you're on PulseChain, what really has real value versus just a bunch of BS freaking narrative? What actually on chain, there's great people in this space right now. What actually has proven to deliver value? Not a bunch of white hat hacker dudes building 29 different ecosystems, promising 9 million different things, and you're all over the place. But what are those things that has actually really delivered value And when I say deliver value, I mean you put your pulse in and it made you more pulse, which when you sell it makes you dollars. And has proven to do it over long time frames. And has also proven to give actual value to the underlying protocol, real capital, right? And actually incentivizes people to hold the token. There's just not a lot of stuff going on because, like what you're saying, it's so early, right? But I do believe that that this grouping of smart contracts called Grays, it's just proving itself out to be that very thing. If you've been in Hex or PulseX or PulseChain or Ink or whatever, if you just swap that stuff for Grays, you've just done astronomically well, right? And because like, what was the Curry? What was the metric that you just said earlier? I think that was a very powerful metric that you can just bypass, where you were talking about the last time the price of Pulse was X.
Yeah.
Basically, that represented like a. Can you give us that one more time?
Yes. pTGC is 10-1 with PulseChain right now. pTGC first went 10-1 with PulseChain on 13 January when PulseChain was 53% higher in price than it is right now. Isn't that the metric you were after?
Yes. Yes. So in other words, PulseChain was over 50% higher in value, and we were at a 10-1.
Mm-hmm.
We are now still at a 10-1, and PulseChain is down 50% on its price.
Exactly. Yeah, that's an excellent summary. Yeah, that's bullish to me.
These are KPIs that, if you understand what they mean, they're so bullish for this protocol on top of PulseChain's ecosystem. And the fact that I, as an investor in PulseChain, can swap my Pulse for Grays and have all the exposure to Pulse's ecosystem, all Richard Hart cores, in that Grays token. I get all the exposure to that ecosystem that underpins it with value. But then I get all of the math and tokenomics and mechanics of something that is superior to that on top of it. Guys, it is my honest opinion that the Grays currency is superior currency to those currencies because of math. But it derives all of its value from the very things that we love and believe in, which is the Richard Hart core tickers. If that is true, which I believe it to be true, then there is really, if you are on PulseChain, there is a real live thought process that you need to go through. There isn't anything else like this on PulseChain. There are things on PulseChain that give you higher yield, right? But there's not things on PulseChain that have the track record that this has, with everything built in that's totally trustless, that you don't have to trust anybody. It's built and designed just like Hex, but it has things that's never been before on any blockchain sitting on top of PulseChain at these levels, right? So it's not even a question of is the Grays performing better for people who are on PulseChain? It's a fact. It's just a mathematical fact, right? And the fact that we're still at a 10-1 ratio with PulseChain right now and trending up, and the last time here PulseChain was 53% higher in price, that means that this system is getting even stronger against PulseChain. That's what that means.
Yeah, I wanted to touch real base and Bitcoin Gold. I see you real quick. So you can come up in a sec. Let me just tap into this real quick before we move on to you. You made the comment, Mando, that I forget the exact wordage, but compared to other assets on here, you don't really see a better currency to be in. And one thing I wanted to kind of point out is the wordage of this is very important. Not necessarily the wordage of currency, but you can kind of study every specific product and ask yourself, what is this designed for, right? And when you kind of ask yourself that, it kind of decide why you should be in it or shouldn't be in it. I'm going to kind of go through a couple assets real quick, and you can kind of ask yourself, is this actually mechanically designed to be the best performing asset on this blockchain? And that doesn't mean that that asset isn't going to be a way better performer than other blockchain tokens, other tokens out there, you know, for example, real world assets or fiat in general. Like I 100% even think a lot of the cryptocurrencies that are not necessarily designed to be top performers will outperform fiat over and over and over again. But you do need to kind of pay attention to the realm you're in and look at the specific design of a protocol and think, what has this been designed to be? And I'll start with like PLS for an example. I look at PLS as the transactional currency of the chain. Tons of value there. Look at Ethereum. Tons of value in being the transactional currency of the chain, especially against fiat, right? It's a real asset. It's a good place to store value. It's got utility and a reason to exist. But in the real world, the transactional currency fiat, yeah, it's great for transaction paying for stuff, but that doesn't mean it's great for storing value. That doesn't mean it's great for price appreciation, right? Compared to fiat, PulseChain is probably great for that over the long term. Hasn't been great for it since its launch, but over the long term, I do believe it's going to be great for that due to its scarcity, due to the fact that you need it to do things and there isn't just constantly crazy amounts of it coming out daily with no cap, right? Just due to the scarcity, it's going to have value and it's going to be a good store of value, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean it's the best store of value and best price appreciation asset on chain. Now I'll look at Ink, right? The design of Ink. What was Ink's design? What is its reason to exist? Well, a lot of its reason to exist is to be able to pay the people who are providing liquidity on the DEX, right? PulseX. That's a lot of the reason for it to exist, because for people to provide liquidity, they needed an incentive. If you don't give them an incentive, why would they provide liquidity? Then they would just be getting hit with impermanent loss. So it's the counteracting to the impermanent loss that they're receiving during the liquidity providing. Does that mean it can do crazy amounts of X's? Yeah, 100%. It can do crazy amounts of X's. It's very, very scarce in general. There's also a little bit of inflation, etc. But does that mean it's mechanically designed to do large amounts of X's to pay APY for just holding, hyper-deflationary? No, that doesn't mean that. So I just kind of think people, you know, when you say like it's the best currency, you need to look at what they are designed to do. And I do think a lot of the RH tickers, if you look at the category in and what they're designed for, they're the best of the best. That's why we're paired with them. We also believe pTGC and UFO are some of the best of their own categories, like of their own design features, right? And yeah, I just kind of wanted to point that out, is you kind of sometimes need to rewind a little bit and kind of look at just the basics, right? Like, why am I in blockchain? Well, I'm in blockchain for self-custody. I'm in blockchain for price appreciation. I'm in blockchain because I want trustless yield, stuff like that, right? These are basics that people are looking for and why they're here. Well, when you kind of rewind and look at all those things, like pTGC and UFO become such simple decisions. When you zoom out and you ask yourself, why did I end up here? I do believe pTGC and UFO hit so many of the boxes users are looking to check.
Well, especially when then holding a Grays token exposes me to Pulse, PulseX, Hex, Inc, Most, Pump, everything that I would be sitting in anyway.
Yeah, it's by one you hold all. By one you hold all. When PulseChain runs up, you get those gains. If PulseX does a move, you get some of those gains based on the amount of liquidity we have in it. While also, when most assets don't just move straight up, most of them move up and then down, up and then down. Every time one of our connected assets move up and then down, which this is what they've done forever, right? This is what the only guarantee in the markets are. You hope over the long term the trend is up, but every time they move up and down, they generate revenue for our system and they push up the price of pTGC slowly every single day. Yesterday was a great example. Our H tickers moved down, most in pump moved up. We have most in pump LPs. That created a volatile situation. We generated revenue off of that, and that made pTGC more scarce and pushed PLS into the LPs that can never be extracted from our system again. The only place they can be extracted from is by the users who hold the tokens. So everyone's holding claim checks on all the value that's in these LPs. So you're actually able to hold this hyperdeflating asset that earns APY while also being completely connected in large amounts of liquidity with all the assets you'd be looking to hold anyways instead of it, just with a buy and burn and APY built into it.
Yeah, and all of this is, really even supercharged when you start talking about how much the DAO is starting to, how much PulseChain the DAO is able to accumulate at all-time lows of PulseChain with the same volumes that we had when Pulse was up, 300% from here. It just starts to get kind of crazy.
Yeah. Hey, let me get to BTC Gold real quick. I see his hands up. What's going on, man?
Morning, Braze. Morning, Mando. I had interviewed, kind of did a Q&A a few months ago with you guys in my other account. Been a crazy few days in Pulse. My friends are in Pulse. I'm just going to throw this out there. You guys have referenced the growth of Matic when it was a young chain and how successful it's done. Now is the time for you guys to maybe consider expanding. A true crypto investor is multi-chain. I'm not sure if you're interested in testing out SUI, maybe diversing the risk versus relying on Pulse and Richard. And also the Tang Gang is also, I thought they were kind of a group of rogue investors, but now what they're up to makes perfect sense, where they're multi-chain and they could be potentially bringing new users into Pulse. Just kind of curious what your thoughts are.
As far as Tang Gang, I completely believe that they're working in an awesome direction for themselves and also an awesome direction for PulseChain, right? Like, I think that route of trying to go multi-chain, and hopefully I'm not like directly in that community, so I don't know the end goal intentions, but I believe from what I heard that the goal is to bring these users back to PulseChain eventually, especially once we have some more confirmation of, this chain being not a sinking ship, which should come around full circle. For me, we 100% have the ability to pivot at any point, right? pTGC and UFO can pivot and become multi-chain if we want to. My personal opinion as of right now is we're not to the point where we need to pivot from this chain. I still believe this chain has maximum upside potential against every other chain. And my main focus is believing in the city that I've created home base in, and really making sure my store, my business, whatever you want to call it, within the city is fully stacked, top notch, ready to go for when the city does blossom, right? As a community, we have to build this city on our own. That's how cities are built. A few people go into that city, that town, they see potential in the landscape, and they start building, and they start building, and they start building. And 100% portions of them will go to other cities and tell people about this glorious land that has all these promising features coming in the future. And people will go there and buy land for cheap, not for what it is today, but what it could be tomorrow. And I personally haven't lost faith in what PulseChain could be tomorrow because the foundation is so perfect. It's just there's just not a lot of people that currently are residing here, but we got the ocean view. We got the mountains, to the left. We got everything you're looking for in a perfect city for a perfect landscape. We got good sustainable dexes. We got, a trustless blockchain for the most part. We have a founder who's constantly building new stuff to make us grow. I do believe there's more stuff in the background. So I personally think for the pTGC and UFO ecosystem, it's still worth our time to push through these hard times, to push through the storm, and keep the value right here on PulseChain. Because if we go to other blockchains, we're going to be dividing our community and dividing our value, making it so we thin out. And I think by going a little bit longer here on PulseChain and showing our faith in where we are and what we believe in is going to actually help us over the long term, because we're going to really create a foundation here for when it is successful. And on top of that, PulseChain is the chain that pTGC and UFO will thrive the most off of, right? Like, yeah, we can create these systems on Ethereum or this, but they would never operate to their maximum potential that they could actually operate over here. And what I think that's going to do for pTGC and UFO is not going to get it to where they're top 200 cryptocurrencies, right? Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to be knocking on the door of the top 50, top 20 cryptocurrencies that ever existed in crypto. We want to be right in their face, competing with them as far as liquidity goes, as far as market cap goes, as far as volume goes, as far as value generation goes. Like, the goal is to be right there in their face. And I think the best way that could happen is by keeping as much value here in this spot as possible. And I also believe with a successful blockchain, you'll never be able to get back the opportunity missed if you started to spread your community too thin or the value accumulated too thin. Like, the best example is if we were to create another system like this on another chain, the value would need to come from somewhere to create this system, right? With pTGC and UFO, the value was pretty much put up front to make the system work. And yeah, we could, I guess do some way, but the easiest way would be, hey, maybe the DAO, right? Well, that's funds not going into the existing protocol, right? And if those funds go into the existing protocol and this blockchain is successful, that does make it to where our system will automatically be knocking on the doors of the biggest cryptocurrencies in history. And that's the goal, right? To have a product that is actually onboarding users to this blockchain alongside the blockchain. And again, that doesn't mean that like what the Tanging is doing isn't right. Like, I completely believe in what they're doing as well. I think that's all of us as the people building a community, building a city here on this new land. We're kind of all taking different paths to create it, right? We all have our own trade, our own goal, our own vision that we have. And when you put it all together, that's what creates like this glorious city of all different types of people, cultures, walks of lives coming together and thriving together.
Okay, valid points. I mean, I can counter argue a few points, but if that's what your wish is, all I'm saying is, in order to make Pulse great again, bring in new users, I think you kind of need to be multi-chain, but that's just me because it's too difficult to get into Pulse number one.
Well, I think the main thing is there's other groups that are doing it. We don't. Our protocol doesn't necessarily have to jump on that grenade. Other teams are doing stuff like that.
Okay.
Also, it's on the table in terms of creating LPs with actual Bitcoin, with actual Ethereum, with actual BNB. All those things are possible because we have safe bridges to those things and assets on those things. But the problem is right now is that for me personally, man, the price is low. But if you're paying attention to the protocols, to PulseChain's ecosystem's metrics based on a number of different things, this is opportunity if you believe in the longevity of PulseChain, if you believe in the success of PulseChain. If you don't believe in the success of PulseChain, then it's not.
Okay.
I do agree with you in certain ways, though, BTC Gold. Like, a pivot is always in the cards. Like, we have the ability. That's what's beautiful about the DAO, right? Is it gives us the ability to pivot at any point to make it to where we can thrive ultimately no matter what. Like you said, if PulseChain isn't really a success, well, yeah, at some point maybe we do pivot and maybe not even create, the protocol on other chains, but pair with other assets like, this is in the cards, like ETH bridged in, Bitcoin bridged in, BNB bridged in, other EVMs that we can bridge into PulseChain. We can pair with all these things. I do agree that at times, like if things don't go how I believe they will go, we will utilize those funds to pivot to make pTGC thrive no matter what. But I personally just don't think we're at that point where the pivot is necessary. I do believe in PulseChain being a very, very successful chain, and I believe in Richard Hart as a founder of this chain, or I wouldn't have built here in the first place.
Okay, Mando. One last question. You mentioned about not necessarily becoming a competitor to Tangain. I'm just referencing today's crypto investor kind of has to be multi-chain. But is there another? How many groups are thinking multi-chain that are in Pulse besides Tangain?
Well, I don't remember saying anything about being a competitor to anything. I don't remember saying anything like that. But
okay. Well, thank you guys. I obviously wish you the best of success, and we'll see what King Richard does.
Amen to that. Thanks for chiming in, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, do you or Banana have anything else you guys want to go over, Mando?
Maybe it's just a good time to see if anybody else wants to come up and speak or have questions. Is there anybody else?
I'm bringing Mikey G up right now.
Perfect.
What's up, Mikey?
I don't see Mike as a speaker.
It's showing on my end. Mike, if you hear me, maybe you need to drop down.
I can hear Mike.
Mike, Chris, I see your hands up too. Just hold on a second. Let's let Mikey go first, if that's cool. What's up, Mikey?
Have you got me now, yeah?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, thanks for having me up. I just have a quick question. I don't really know how to put it, so I'll just throw it out. Now that the PDI narrative is dead, do you have any views on how PulseChain will gain value? And by that, I don't mean a 10, the 20x. I'm talking 100,000x.
Well,
Where do you see the value coming from? Are we dependent on Ethereum?
I got it, Mikey. I got it. Let me tackle this, man. So the only thing I'd say to this, Mikey, and I say this like with all seriousness, I don't agree with the premise of that question, if you know what I mean. Because the premise of that question suggests that PulseChain, it means that the premise of the question suggests that the success of PulseChain was dependent and contingent on pDAI doing good.
That was my
belief. It's just not.
That was my belief before.
But yeah, I know that, and I could tell because that's how you framed the question. But that is that premise is not a true premise at all. The Atropa Dev Maria put into people's minds a lie after it bought all of the pDAI, paired it with the Atropa ecosystem, and then said, obviously to his own best interest, well, if pDAI doesn't go to $1, PulseChain can't be successful. And a lot of people believe that bullshit. But nothing can be further from the truth. It's just not a true statement, sir.
Okay, then, well, where's the value going to come from?
Where does the value come from on any chain?
Are we looking at organic adoption?
Well, here's what I wanted to say. Where was the value coming from with pDAI to just take PulseChain into Valhalla? It was a pDAI pegging instantly narrative, and then all of a sudden it's going to make PulseChain go up to 1,000x. It was never happening, right?
Well, no, there was a narrative behind it, and I was following 9iron and Decentralized Me on that, and it was very compelling. What they said still is, and Sommy's very compelling with what he's putting out.
Yeah, but Sommy's lying to everybody, man.
Well, that's a matter of opinion.
Well, what it is, do you believe in Richard, or do you believe what Richard is point blank telling you, or do you believe what Sommy's telling you?
I do believe in Richard, and just to put it out there, I don't have any pDAI sold, so I'm not in it. What I'm looking at, we've been talking, we can do this many X's and that many X's. We're just reliant on PulseChain doing X's. How does PulseChain do the X's? Where does the value come from? That's my simple question.
Zen, you want to? I have an answer, but I'll let Zen go for it.
Hey, Mikey, how you doing?
Yeah, I hear you. The pDAI narrative definitely sounded awesome, right? The fact of having a fully decentralized stablecoin on chain. I personally still don't even think that's out of the question, even if it's not through pDAI, right? It could be through a new asset or whatever. But what I wanted to bring out is like the numbers that we were running earlier was just a 10x on PulseChain. It was literally just PulseChain going back up to its old all-time highs, right? Like, so I think the factor that we're adding into the pTGC ecosystem as a sub-ecosystem on chain is very, very easily attainable for PulseChain. Like, literally, it's already been there in its lifespan, and no one even knows PulseChain exists. So that's, one of the benefits of being on, a smaller sub-ecosystem that is pro-RH and is on his chain, but does have the ability to do a lot of the game-winning shots on our own, right? So the fact is with pTGC, like, we can do a 20x from here, and PulseChain can easily do a 10x, Mikey. And we're sitting on a 200x, right? A 200x from today's prices. That would be close to probably 100x to the liquidity. That could be, that could equal crazy amounts of volume increase, which then equals decent APYs, massive buy-in birds, making us probably one of the top 50 cryptocurrencies that exist. And that's only a 10x on PulseChain. I'm not, 100%, 1,000x on PulseChain, in my opinion, Mikey, real quick, it does come from natural adoption, right? Like, we can't expect to get 1,000x over here without getting natural adoption of users coming over the bridge to actually participate in this amazing blockchain. And that's something I feel like a lot of people keep counting out. Like, imagine if PulseChain goes back to all-time highs. The line of people actually willing to come over here will get a lot longer. And in my opinion, that's where the value comes from. The value comes from actual real humans bridging into our ecosystem because they see that this is a thriving city, because they want to participate in this amazing place that we've built from the ground floor up. You know, we just have to get the important infrastructure pieces, the normal go-tos of the city in place so they can come over here and have a comfortable experience. They don't want to build the library from ground floor. They don't want to build the parks and the streets and the roads and the lights. They want to come here once that's already done, and they just want to move into their comfy house and let their value work for them. We're kind of going through it a different approach. We're building the ground floor. We're doing this because then we're able to put our mansion at beachfront because we're buying that stuff at discounted rates before anyone even knows it's going to be a thriving city. So that's my personal opinion, is a lot of the value will come from people coming to this city, right? From people bridging in themselves over the bridge and appreciating the tokens in price via them coming over here.
Well, thanks for that. Just to make it clear, I'm not questioning pTGC or UFO. You know, I'm all in on that. I'm just questioning where is the value going to come from that makes PulseChain great.
Well, absolutely, man. It's a fair question, man. I think too, Mikey, and we always appreciate you because you always come up with great questions and always have positivity. You know, it is a fair question, but like, what makes PulseChain successful is like when all of these wet blankets are lifted, right? Like, we had really positive sentiment, SEC. And then they did what they always do, and now we still have the SEC until April 21st. And so then you have Ravi Wallet. They don't want to do anything with us now because the SEC is still there when they thought it wasn't before. And it's just
everything's again.
Right. And then obviously we have the liquidity was pulled, which makes it easier to pump, but easier to dump. And then right after the liquidity was pulled, our greatest narrative on chain pDAI exploded in everybody's faces, right? Yeah. So now you have the purge of pDAI, and then when Maria saw that was happening and everything in his ecosystem was paired with pDAI, he starts exploding it starts dumping everything, right? So sometimes, man, it's a Armageddon atomic bomb perfect storm, and that's what we're witnessing right now.
Yeah. Can I add to this, guys?
Absolutely.
Good morning. So I think we're really overcomplicating this, and we're trying to nitpick the pDAI thing and all these other things. We're in the same situation as everybody else. If you look, we're down 5.5% today, right? So if you look on the chain, you got Solana's down 3%, GRT's down 6%, Dogecoin's down 6%, Axis is down 6%, right? We're in line with everybody else. It's this simple. When ETH turns around, our chain turns around. We're not going to need a slew of new buyers. We're a leverage. PulseChain's a leverage play on ETH. When ETH starts pumping, we start pumping. When Pulse starts pumping, pTGC will pump even harder. So I think that, it's easy to get lost in the weeds and try to pull out all these like little narratives, but I simply think when ETH turns around, you're going to see this thing do fireworks.
Can I just chip in there? I thought deeply about the ETH narrative. So let's just dig into that. So if ETH, let's say it did a 10x from here, which you probably won't, but let's positive, and it does a 10x. Then PulseChain will probably do a 10x on that. So PulseChain does a 100x. Well, I'm of the opinion if PulseX only does a 100x, Richard R. wouldn't see that as a success.
But what will pTGC do if Pulse does 100x?
It might do 1,000x.
Well, there you go. What's 1,000x from here? You'll be pretty good, right? So when you're talking about where's the value coming from?
And yeah,
not bad, huh?
yeah. That's great, but it's not that great, is it? It's not, the 10,000x that Richard's kind of promotes.
Well, that's a fallacy. How many coins did 10,000x, right?
X did, didn't it?
Yeah. How many coins are out there?
Well, I'm not getting into that. That's not
Well,
the
it's
thing.
something to think about, right? We lean on 10,000x on hex being like the standard moving forward. 1,000x is huge. Those are huge numbers, brother. That's life-changing money.
That's because pTGC is such a fantastic project, but Pulse has only done 100x.
Well, Mikey, if PulseChain did 100x from here, it'd be at a $32 billion market cap.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's not small potatoes, right? I think right now, if you go to CoinMarketCap and you look at what's in the $32 billion market cap range right now, that's in the top 5 of cryptos in the world. Like Doge is at 25, USDC is at 60 billion. 100x from here puts us, in the top 5 at current prices.
Yeah, that's at today's prices you're talking.
Right.
Right. But you're talking today's prices, but we've projected 1,000x on it. So 1,000x every other thing.
Well, here's the other thing too, Mikey. Where are you going to go right now? You're not going to get that in any of those chains. You're not going to get that in.
Right? I'm good. I'm good where I am. I'm good where I am. I've got good bags of pTGC and UFO, and I'm happy with my position.
Well, we're also talking about
where's the value going to come from that makes Pulse great. Because Richard said he didn't need anybody.
Well, listen, you're talking about 100x on just a leverage play on ETH, right? So using your example, no new buyers, we do 100x. Now, we're not talking about the SEC case clearing up. We're not talking about other people seeing us do 100x. We're not talking about any of the funds that were from the SAC being injected at any point, right? There's still so many pieces of rocket fuel that could be added that could pump that 1,000x up to a bigger number.
Which is what I'm asking. Are we reliant on Track Daddy? Are we reliant on ETH doing a 10x?
It's a conglomeration of everything. It's a conglomeration of the things that we're leveraged with going up, the general market going up, sentiment in the legacy markets going up, Bitcoin going up, SEC going away, PDI, all that extraction shit kind of dying out.
Well, think about this too. Where does 1,000x put us for market cap, right? We were talking about we need to be cross-chain to bring in new eyes. We're going to be in the top 10 at 1,000x. pTGC, I'm saying. Yeah. So that'll drive new adoption.
If pTGC does 1,000x, we're all golden. Aren't we? I'm just, but it could do more than that, I think. If PulseChain does wow.
It's so funny how we sit in here talking about thousands of X when people in their right mind going to work every day just wishes they could double their money.
Dude, right? 1,000x.
Like there's no perspective. Yes.
Every $1,000 is $1 million on 1,000x.
Hey, if it does a 10x, I'll be happy. pTGC, I'm talking, nothing which I think it's it's going to do that with its eyes shut.
I mean, Mikey, at just a 6 or 7x from our previous all-time high, every 100 million tokens, man, is worth a cold $1 million.
Yeah. Hey, Banana, just for fun of it, bang in. What if PDI goes to $1? Just for fun of it.
Oh,
there might be PDI guys watching this or listening to it, and when they see figure, they might think.
You know what? I'll be honest with you, Mikey. I prefer that we don't do that in here. We're not trying to propagate that narrative, Matt, in any way.
It's showing people that are holding.
It doesn't matter.
pTGC.
Yeah, it's just not something that we want to be propagating. It's not.
Well, we're open source. We're open, aren't we? It's advertising, hey, PDI people, sell your PDI and buy pTGC because this is what you could get. You'll do better in this than you will if you just hold PDI. That's why I'm suggesting that you do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great. Sell your PDI and go into pTGC. But talking about PDI going to $1 is just not something we want to do on the chats.
Well, okay. It was only a suggestion. I don't think it'd do any harm.
Mikey, respectfully, these, we're trying to not propagate that narrative at all. It's not good for the chain.
Okay, fair enough. I just thought I would help him, but obviously not.
We love you, man, but that's not what it is.
It's worrying times, don't you think, though? It's worrying times. Like you said, it's like an apocalypse.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And my narrative has been blown out at water. I thought I had it all figured out with the PDI narrative. That's now being blown out at water, and I'm just wondering, how does PulseChain, become this great PulseChain that everybody thinks and knows it could be? That's all.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice, Mike. I'm sorry that happened. We all were tracking with that awesome narrative until that narrative was no longer an awesome narrative anymore.
Yeah, and I onboarded people with that narrative, and now I've got to face them, and I've got they're asking me these are kind of questions they're asking me, and I'm looking for answers so that I can pass it on to them.
Well, you got some good ones, brother. We're looking at 1,000x potentially. How good would that be?
If you've got pTGC, yeah. If you just hold it pulse, you got 100x.
That's the case on any L1. You hold the gas token, it's usually the smallest performer on the chain.
Well, Ethereum wasn't.
Oh, yeah?
Ethereum was the first ever EVM created right after Bitcoin, and it's kind of a category mistake to compare that situation.
Well, RH compared it, didn't they? He said if Ethereum can do a 14,000x, why can't Pulse?
Yeah, but it didn't start at billions and billions of market cap. It started at 31 cents.
Let's also remind you when he measures the 10,000x on Hex, he measured from the absolute bottom, not from the launch price. So it launched and it dumped way down, just like we're doing right now. We're setting all-time lows. So we're actually setting the part where he's going to measure to the top. So we got to put this in first, and then remain positive, brother.
Yeah, you remember, Mikey, when Hex? I don't know if you were around in the beginning with Hex. Hex had the big payday, and it dropped like 90-something%, man. Right from its all-time high, it went up.
I got into that.
Exactly. So this is very similar to that, and it went up, and now it's dropping down, and it's kind of the same similar thing.
Yeah, well, Richard behind it, wasn't it?
Well, the thing that happens here is that it gives people that have vested interests in the chain to remove supply for way less money.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the key.
I'd just like to know what it is or have some idea. I mean, Richard ain't going to let this happen, in my mind. He's going to make his chain successful. That's what I believe in. And that's why I'm here. But as to yet, we don't seem to have much of a clue as to how it's going to happen. I'm just looking for some answers, that's all.
Yeah, unfortunately, man, like the answers that are real are just time, removal of the wet blankets that are on top of the system, right? A very quick reversal of any kind, a reversal of the general markets of any kind. The standard answers, the real answers, not the wishful thinking answers. And right now it's really easy to focus on the negatives because the PDI thing that everybody had their hopes and their dreams with just disappeared for the most part. And so you're feeling that emotional like hangover at the moment, right?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and it's a bit embarrassing as well because I thought I had it all figured out, and then all of a sudden I haven't. Well, you know, I was wrong, and I've got to face people and say, "Look, I was wrong. I'm sorry." So, you know, there's an embarrassment to it as well.
You're a good man, Mikey.
Yeah, I think you just got to hang tight a little bit longer, brother. Everything is down. The S&P, Bitcoin, the whole market is down right now. It's not that you could tell people to go into anything except gold, and they're going to be down right now.
That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been telling them, actually. Everything's down. You know, it's not just PulseChain.
The key is, are you buying at these levels, right? Because if you really want that 10,000x, did you catch it? If you didn't buy at the bottom, you didn't catch it anyways. And now that you see Richard bringing in liquidity and trying to stop the bleeding, that's a pretty good sign that we're pretty close to the bottom here.
It is. And I think it's positive that all the liquidity is being drained out of everything. And I think this is part of Richard's plan. Everything's dirt cheap. Everything's at the bottom. There's no liquidity. And to me, there's a plan there. He's up to something.
If you look though, a very large wallet has just added liquidity here at the bottom of PulseChain.
I heard Mando say that, yeah. So that's positive, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that wallet in that position, it literally could take trillion, well over $1 trillion off the market. I mean, a trillion coins, right? Look, I agree with Mike. It's a perfect storm. We all were in the boat with you, Mikey. I feel you, brother. I feel you. But
we need to plug the hole.
Keep the hope, man. Keep the faith, man. Like, it's the whole market right now. It's not just us. It's the whole market plus PulseChain perfect storm.
But you know what the hope is? pTGC is the hope. That is the one shining beacon on the PulseChain ecosystem is pTGC. Because, and like Beirut said, be right, what did he say? Be right if you're wrong.
Be a genius if you're right, be a genius if you're wrong.
That's the one, yeah. And by being in pTGC, that's exactly it. In my mind.
We appreciate you, brother. Keep your head up, man. And you know what, man? Here's the thing about the embarrassing piece. Yeah, you kind of got to tuck your tail and tell your buddies, man, we never saw this coming. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you have to understand that the whole time everyone knew that this was one of the most highly speculative asset purchases of all time. And for people to be like sitting here thinking this is 100% for surely happening, when in reality, it's literally one of the most speculative things you could ever buy in the history of mankind.
Yeah, no.
You got to know the situations that you're in, man.
Hey, Mikey, let me ask you: did you get your friends into pTGC or UFO?
I did. Yeah, right. But they're not all in.
What's that?
They are in it. Yes, I got them into it, but
so
they're not in deep. To me, they're not in deep enough. But they won't take my anymore. That's what I'm saying. They're blown out of water. So, and I'm like, this is the golden goose. I'm telling them, this is the golden goose. Get into this. I've been in this game 7 years. This is the one. I'm like, yeah, I've got a bit. So, my reputation's taking a hit. And I'm talking friends and family.
Yeah, I can tell. I can tell just by how, because normally your countenance is different, G, and we all feel that, man. That's why so many people just don't get their friends and family involved, because they just don't want to do the risk of, having that potential damage or whatever, right? But that's why it's such a learning lesson. If you do share this industry with people, you gotta caveat the risk. You gotta know what this is. You can't blow steam up people's ass and tell them. You gotta make sure that they're starting off with whatever amount of money that they can just feel comfortable with if they lost all of it, and they really have to know that. So it's a learning lesson instead of now your brother-in-law doesn't want to talk to you anymore, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I'm talking brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
But thanks for your positivity and trying to keep us mindset up, because I think it is all doom and gloom at the minute, but I do think it'll turn around, and perhaps when it does, then you might start believing me again.
I mean, is it all doom and gloom right now? You got an opportunity to stack at the very lows. You're collecting yield along the way. The Dow is stacking so much rocket fuel. You're in a really, really good spot, Mikey, and I want you to, put your mindset there and maybe help your onboards believe that too, because, if nothing else, we're going to know what's going on April 21st with the SEC. ETH turns around even a little bit. Pulse is going to start pumping. Richard's going to get to work if the SEC case stops. But even if not, we still have so much rocket fuel. And this is an opportunity, probably the last opportunity, to stack up so you can realize that 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, whatever access that we end up getting on the chain. So it seems ugly, but it's really positive right now.
Well, I'm no dry powder. I'm all in now. But, we've had 4 red months, like killer months. It's supposed to be bull market, wasn't it? This is supposed to be bull market, and this is what.
Yeah, but it is. But we're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And in the middle of bull runs, you always have massive retracements. You always have pauses. You don't just go straight up. It just doesn't work that way, man.
No. It's gone down for 4 months in bull market. That's pretty worrying. But I'm still positive. I still believe it's going to turn around. I just think we haven't really had the bull run yet.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. Look at Ethereum. Ethereum was up at 4,000 or whatever, and it's at 1,800. Bitcoin is almost 110,000. It's nearing going into 70s.
Yeah, Ethereum should be 7 grand now, shouldn't it?
Well, not right now. No.
That's where it should be. According to the charts, according to previous cycles, that's where it should be around about the 7 grand mark. But it's under 2. It's like unbelievable.
It's what? I don't know about that. Not based on where Bitcoin is.
Well, yeah. Anyway, we'll keep batting on, and we'll keep the faith.
Awesome, man.
Anyway, thank you. I'm going to sit down.
Yep. Anybody else we got, Dan?
Yeah, I just brought William up. William did my time, if you don't know.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I just want to say I appreciate you guys so much and everything you're building here. Giga onboarded me a few years ago. If I know, some of you guys know him. He's my friend in the outside world, or in the real world, actually. I've been holding RH Core coins for years, and I never thought I'd mess around with anything else until I started listening to you guys a few months ago, and man, I just think what you have here is going to be really special. And it was cool to hear you guys go into Panos space yesterday and kind of explain to them what this thing does. And you could see the tune start to change in those guys' minds towards this thing. And I can't wait to see the world's reaction to when this thing really starts to go, once ETH flips and PulseChain starts to really move. So I'm just really grateful for you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming in and saying that. That does mean a lot. Thank you for saying that. It kind of adds to what Mikey was saying a little bit. Mikey, I feel for you. I've onboarded tons of people to PulseChain. Like William's up right now, and he talks about how he got onboarded to PulseChain. Like, I don't know if that 2 years ago was stack prices or what, but you are not the only guy in this boat, Mikey. I want you to know that we're all in this boat together, and we're all fighting together. And kind of go into what William was saying is, we are on a really, really strong battle-tested ship here with pTGC and UFO. I strongly believe it. It's seen the storms before. We've seen how it operates in the storms. Our crew of guys, Mando, Mike, William, Banana, we're a strong crew together as a whole. And I know this storm feels rough, but we're getting through it just fine. And when the waters become clear, it will be a good sail for us, Mikey. So I want you to keep your head up. Also, I wanted to bring up where I think part of the problem was, and still is, with PDI. Like, I don't know what the future holds for anything, Mikey. But one thing I think is important to remind ourselves is to kind of draw the line with, hey, this might happen in the future, or, hey, this is happening right now, and I can see how it operates. The thing I love about pTGC and UFO is the fact that in real time, every single day, we can see how the machine operates since the day it came out. With a lot of these other things, there's a hope that something happens in the future. And usually in cryptocurrencies, if you're hoping something happens in the future, some event, some promise, 99.9% of the time, it sadly never happens. And you have to kind of remind yourself about that. It just usually doesn't happen. So the thing with pTGC and UFO that I think stands out, and like William, thanks for kind of bringing this up, that I do believe we have something really, really special here. And it's not something special that someone is promising to one day come, right? What's special here is here right now. The fact that we see the machine in real time right in front of us is something to really stand behind as a community. And like you said, we're going into Panos' space, and I think we're getting a lot of recognition from a lot of the OG PulseChain people and stuff like that, because we're not promising anything in the future. All we're saying is, hey, we have this unique, amazing machine that's built here on PulseChain. We're here for PulseChain. We're PulseChain people. We're Hexagon people. We also have this unique product, and take a look at how it operates. We're not promising you anything in the future. It's done. It's a finished product. And if this chain's successful, with PulseChain being successful, even without PulseChain being successful, we have the opportunity to change our loved ones' lives here with pTGC and UFO. Mikey, I feel you. I have my cousin in to PulseChain. I have family friends. I have my employees in the PulseChain. I've onboarded tons of people, tons. And one thing that makes me always feel comfortable is I also onboard them into pTGC and UFO, obviously, and I know what the future looks like for pTGC and UFO. I don't know what the price looks like, right? I don't know what PLS's price looks like. I don't know what the future holds as far as the market, but I do know what the future holds as far as the pTGC and UFO machine, and that makes me feel really, really comfortable for my own family's future and also my friends and family's future as well.
Thanks, Zen. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and really, like the numbers that you're saying, I'm gonna kind of bring you back to reality a little bit. If your loved ones aren't happy with 100x on the blockchain, they should be looking at you like you're a king if you got that for them.
Seriously, man. You know, we just gotta go, Mikey. We just gotta go watch that Rocky movie, man.
Yeah,
it ain't about how hard you, right?
We just got to reduce adaptations.
Expectations are a bitch, man.
Yeah. Thank you guys for lifting me up. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming up, William, and saying that. Are you a tattoo artist? I'm looking at your picture right now. No, maybe.
William, you there, man? Is he a listener?
No, he was a speaker. He was the one speaking, but maybe you didn't hear me. I was just going to bring up that my cousin, who's a big PulseChain person now, who I've onboarded, who's a big pTGC and UFO person. He's not a social media like PulseChain person. Like he's not on Twitter. He's also a tattoo artist. So I was just going to bring up there's other PulseChain tattoo artists out there.
Did Chris have something?
Oh yeah, Chris. Sorry about that. Yeah, Chris was raising his hand.
What's up, Chris?
Howdy, folks. How we doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm sitting here just taking the punches, but I'm still marching forward. That's all I can do for the time being. Yeah, I was just going to say, guys, just keep your head above the water. Even though this rough storm we have, even after a rough storm, the sun always shines.
Yeah, when you walk up a down escalator for a year and a half, what you end up with is some thick thighs. So once this escalator stops, we'll be walking up the rest of the staircase, no problem.
How about some thick calves?
And calves.
You're going to be sore, though.
Oh,
you're gonna be worn the hell out.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever done the Stairmaster. It's like the first 5 minutes, you're like, this is brutal, but then your body just gets put into this special mode. I forget what it's called, to where it like just blanks out the pain and it just keeps going. So, that's sometimes I feel like what we have to do here on PulseChain is, yeah, it's rough, but you just kind of have to put some faith in your machine and, just keep going and know that there is some benefits, like Mike was saying, at being at these levels. The pTGC and UFO ecosystem is scraping in tons of PLS at these levels. And, the fact that we're going to be able to get to use that PLS eventually to better our system for our holders and for our supply, decreasing our supply, adding the LP, however it gets used, it could be one of the best opportunities that's existed for the pTGC and UFO ecosystem. Every dip that's happened so far on PulseChain, after the dip, I've always came out of it saying, wow, I'm thankful for that dip. pTGC came out of that dip like ×2, right? Like the machine has just grown in these low periods so much. So I'm kind of telling myself that right now, like, wow, we're in the lowest period we've ever been. When we come out of these lowest periods, pTGC might be coming out of these low periods ×4 because it's utilizing this low period to its benefit.
I mean, every time it's ever been pushed down, it's always showing people that what it can do. I mean,
100%. I think it is such a blessing that we do have a machine that utilizes these low prices of PulseChain, and it scrapes up these cheap PulseChain and puts it in the treasury for us to use. There's currently a very large amount of PLS sitting in the management wallet, a large amount of PLS sitting in the smart contract of the DAO, and the lower pulse goes, the faster that fills. So
and I have all the faith in the world about you guys and what you're doing.
Well, it's what the smart contracts are doing, man.
Well, it's
really
a bit
is.
of everything.
Appreciate that, man.
I want to add a little
I'm
something
just happy.
too.
I'm just happy to say I fall in that 1,000 percentile that's held on to pTGC.
Did you have something, Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I know a lot of people, we talk about buying the dip, and sometimes when it dips for a long time, people run out of money, right? The cool part about our system is while you're just sitting there, you're earning these rewards, and the total supply is being burnt. You're seeing people move up in league rankings by doing absolutely nothing. And how many times has Richard said, sometimes the best play is just doing nothing, delaying your gratification.
100%. 100%. Tony, you got something?
Hi. Wow. Huge day for me to hear you guys pull me out of the hole a little. I am curious. You guys have been talking a lot about pTCG, which I'm in big, and I made some good moves back in the day to reduce my Pulse and Pulse X bags and share them across the pTCG network. My issue at the moment, or question, would be I'm more into UFO, weighted UFO. Would it be a smart move to try and make my pTCG bigger than my UFO? Or tell me about UFO succeeding in this market with these plans, if you could. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll go into that, Tony. Thanks for coming up. Personally, I don't think anyone could answer for you which one will do better, right? pTGC or UFO. pTGC naturally gets talked about a lot more just because it was the first one, but UFO has also the exact same mechanics as pTGC. It operates off of the same value generational system as pTGC, and also has a very, very large liquidity web, actually a larger liquidity web than pTGC. It's just community owned instead of protocol owned /burn. So I do think personally that they're both going to do very, very well this bull run with successful PulseChain. They both operate off of the X multiplier. I believe personally they both have extreme amounts of sustainability. They are both very similar in many ways and operate a little bit differently in many ways as well. UFO is a token with an entire farm built upon giving that token value, the UFO token value, while also giving some value to pTGC at the same time, right? So also giving back to pTGC, where pTGC is more of a single-sided staking protocol where the protocol itself has a DAO, and the DAO is the thing constantly giving value to the system, right? To where a main portion of the fee in pTGC goes to the DAO, and the DAO buys and burns LP and buys and burns tokens, where UFO, a large percentage of the fee goes to the LP providers, and the LP providers are the ones giving all the value to UFO. Because the value within the farms of UFO are buying and burning UFO. It's paying APY to holders. It's buying and burning pTGC at the same time. So very in simplicity forms, they operate very, very similarly. When you go into detail, they operate a little bit differently, and you can kind of pick and choose which one fits you best due to your own personal decisions. It's not as simple as an answer as I think people are looking for. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that you need to look into when really making that decision. Prices are a big thing. The fact that, I'll point this positive thing out with UFO that a lot of people don't realize. UFO's price is roughly a quarter of the price of pTGC's currently. So you can technically buy 4 times the amount of supply of UFO with the same amount of money as pTGC. Currently, UFO is a lot cheaper than pTGC. If you're someone who wants to own a large majority share of one of these assets and you have minimal amounts of money, you might want to take advantage of that opportunity. That opportunity is unique because the percentage of the amount of supply you own is your percentage of the percent of the machine. If you own 1% of, this is a large amount, right? But it's easy number. If you own 1% of the machine, that means you technically own 1% of the liquidity. You own 1% of the APY. You own 1% of the volume that's happening. Everything that you own of the machine is technically yours. So you can get bigger shares for cheaper with UFO. Where pTGC, I think, has a lot of value, where people will naturally value it higher, which you can see right now it's valued higher, is the fact that UFO is actually buying and burning pTGC. So as UFO becomes more successful and gets more adoption, it will make pTGC more successful and have more adoption because it's constantly pushing the price of pTGC up. And then also, pTGC's LP is majority burnt and protocol owned, which I believe gives a lot of people security. Some users love the locking built into pTGC and the single-sided staking. Even though with UFO you can hold and just earn, some people like delaying the gratification and taking it that step further. I'm trying to think of some other things that the point of it is there's a lot of aspects to look into when you ask that question of, hey, is it better to do this or better to do that? Because there's so many different aspects.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I'm definitely doing both. It's not one or the other here for me. And you helped answer it. It's like the assistant to pTGC. But because it's like new to the game, it could rise a ladder faster. It could improve faster. Will it ever beat pTGC? I don't think so, from what I understand. Correct?
It's unknown, right? A lot of that is human interaction, right? So if users naturally gravitate to UFO, which they might gravitate due to a number of reasons, it's really unknown. It could easily outperform pTGC with human interaction. But we've designed it in a certain way mechanically. If that ever did happen, it would force pTGC to keep up with it, due to the buying and burning of pTGC at the same time, right? So like almost pTGC can look at UFO like, we wish for the best success for UFO because that's naturally going to just shove us to higher levels, right? Due to the fact that it has such a large liquidity web and it's constantly market making, so it's taking advantage of the volume on chain even heavier than pTGC. But what you have to always remember is a portion of that is always funneling back to pTGC, the mothership, to where the holders of pTGC don't actually have to partake in liquidity providing because the DAO is doing all the liquidity providing for it, and they're just able to single-sided stake and lock. And like Mike was saying earlier, like sometimes the best thing you can do is just sit on your hands, rake in the yield, let the supply decrease, and let the market recover. So it's currently like impossible to just know which one will do better, especially from levels like right now where they're both just extremely oversold and the market's oversold.
Yeah. Which one provides the most yield currently?
If you're talking about dollar amounts entered in, like if you were to enter in with dollar amounts right now, it's UFO because you're getting a larger percentage of the tokens for less money.
More value.
Yeah, and the volume is usually pretty similar. So you need to, this is like how you have to look at it, is they're both paying yield off of their volume. So the one that has naturally or has more volume is usually going to be paying the most yield. More recently, it's been pTGC because pTGC's been having more human interaction.
but UFO has more mechanical interaction.
That's why you put the dollar statement in there, because I could get 4 times with the UFO at the moment.
Yeah, so then you get 4 times the amount of yield based on your position side. But then you also have, there's so many things. Also keep into consideration, with pTGC, you can stake, which makes it so you're getting a whole nother percentage. So it starts ratcheting. Like, you can have half the amount of pTGC than you have UFO. And if volume was the exact same, you would be possibly earning similar amounts, because with pTGC, if you're a staker, you're earning 2% on every transaction, to where UFO, you're earning 1%. But again, if you come in right now, you're getting 4 times the amount of tokens for the same dollar value. So that's what I mean. And then you have to pay attention to volume on each token, etc. So again, I don't even think there's a fair way to even say which one is giving the best yield as of right now or into the future, because it varies every day.
Right. You guys are awesome. I'm so happy to be a part of this team.
From a standard metric too, like the market cap of UFO is $16 million right now, and the liquidity is over 5 million.
Yeah,
it's like 5.2 million. So it's
almost
a 3 to 1. Now, in crypto, you know, if you have a 10 to 1, you're doing great, right? Like if so and this isn't with like shit coins. It's with a system that is tied to core tickers, but that's also generating revenue. And it's a deflationary asset, you know. So the value is there, 100%. This is a bet on PulseChain.
Yeah.
This whole thing is a bet on PulseChain in terms of like amazing gains, like massive gains. But the beautiful thing is that these systems can actually outperform even on a down escalator, which is unique. It's rare that you have that.
Yeah, I'm minting every day. It's crazy.
And just to bring
those tokens are like miners. Sorry, Ferry, go ahead.
No, that's good. Just to bring it back to the amount of supply that you can get. You can buy a dolphin position in pTGC right now is $6,600. A dolphin position in UFO is $1,400. And the difference there is actually 4.6x. So you can get 4.6x more supply of UFO right now than you can in pTGC. And that's with current prices and current supply.
That makes a shark position $14,600 in UFO. Where are you going to get a shark position for that?
Nowhere.
Yeah, $14,300.
$300. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's not a shark position in some stupid meme coin.
That's right.
You know.
Tony, one thing I want to mention to you though is keep in mind when you swap from one to the other, you're going to lose 11% on those fees. You're going to pay 5% on one side, 6% on the other side. So you'd have to make up 11% just to get even in the long run. So keep that in mind, brother.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. I'm talking about new money, new
That's
entries.
the way to go, bro. I've been in this game 3 cycles, and the biggest way you lose is swapping. Just add new money.
Yep. Gotcha. Thank you for that. Man, what a great space this morning. Thanks.
Appreciate you, Tony.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, Tony. Real quick on Mando's statement before we maybe switch the subject. I do need to be closing it down here in a little bit too. But Mando was talking about how the tokens are your miners, right? And what's interesting about the tokens being the miner is there is only so many tokens that exist. So you're not in a situation where there's infinite amount of miners that you need to compete against with the APY. They can't keep increasing and making it more difficult. The only reason they become more difficult to get, or
if you hold your tokens, they never become more difficult to get. They actually increase the ease because you're getting more percentage of the APY. What becomes more difficult is if price keeps going up, the miner, the token, becomes more expensive. So it actually makes it more difficult for someone to get these miners because the miner is the token itself. So by you holding the miner, you're holding the price up of the tokens, which helps the price of the tokens. It's helping you earn more of the token. And most importantly, around you, the supply is constantly decreasing. So it's constantly forcing the amount of APY that's being paid out in smaller and smaller amounts. Because technically there's less miners that exist every single day. And if someone isn't willing to relinquish one of their miners, like return one for someone else to buy, what happens is it just forces the prices up of the tokens naturally, mathematically.
Well, technically, it's even better than that because, like with Hex, with T-share rates, it only ever ratchets up against the price of pTGC or of Hex. With these systems, because it's deflationary, right? As long as you hold, there's always less and less tokens that can actually produce the yield. So every day, every week, every month, every year, there's so many tokens that are being burnt out of existence, and those tokens represented tokens that actually could take in yield that are gone now. So all the yield now that's still coming in has to only go toward the tokens that still exist. So as you hold these tokens, which do represent miners, they represent miners that constantly are generating more value, more yield, but that are constantly ratcheting up in price as the other tokens get distributed into the dead address and are gone. It's very powerful, the concept of it.
I got a question quick for Zen. And I know you have very elaborate, very thought out and intelligent answers, but explain to me like I'm 5. Give me a quick elevator pitch of how UFO shares work, please.
Yeah. So a UFO share is generated by the amount of UFO you add into the liquidity pool upon creation. So anyone who does liquidity providing, they understand that when they enter that pool, they are exposing themselves to impermanent loss. And gosh, that might not be for a 5-year-old.
I got you.
Let me go on this, and then I'll try to make it even simpler. But the problem is, this stuff isn't for 5-year-olds. Yeah. But so in a standard liquidity pool, you put in your 2 sides of the tokens, and what you end up with more of is the worst performing token. So in turn, the liquidity pool pays you APY, or farms will pay you APY to pretty much counteract the impermanent loss that you're receiving. Best case scenario, usually for liquidity providers, is that it fluctuates in and out of the zone you entered in at, so you end up exactly where you were, but with APY, right? Because you don't want to end up with more of the thing that has less value. With UFO share rates, when you enter into UFO, you're locking in the UFO share rate that you entered in at. So even if UFO did a 10x and you lost your UFO tokens, you don't lose your UFO shares. And this is very, very important because now the example of a 10x, for a user to come in and get the same amount of UFO share rates as you, once UFO goes up in price, they'll have to put in 10 times the amount of money to get the same amount of UFO share rates. And when someone comes in and wants to even compete with you as far as getting similar UFO share rates, but price has moved on, since they're coming in with 10 times the amount of money, that's 10 times the amount of money working for the UFO machine. So you're actually getting a portion of what they're entering in with because you locked in these early UFO share rates, which incentivizes the early people to not leave the system, which is important because you don't want early adopters to leave the system You want the early adopters to see sustainability and longevity in the machine and support the price over the long term. This is what actually makes projects last for a long time and be able to do tons of X's. If the early adopters actually see future in the protocol, what kills projects is early adopters just selling and taking profits and just letting the thing die. So the UFO share rates are really valuable because you're locking in prices that are today, but as the whole entire market moves up and the liquidity pool changes, your UFO share rates are locked in, making it to where it costs multiples in the future for people to compete. Even if your liquidity pool is like, so if UFO did a 10x, but PulseChain was the exact same price, your UFO share rates are now worth 10x, but the amount of value in the liquidity pool is not 10x. And that's what's important to realize. The value within that liquidity pool might only be a 4x. So if you were to close that liquidity pool down and then instantly reopen it, you're not getting that same UFO share rate, even though it's the same amount of value. You would be locking in like a 3 times worse UFO share rate. And that's what's really important about it, right? Is your value within that liquidity pool is not worth what your UFO share rate is worth. To actually get that UFO share rate, you might need 3 times the amount more money. The benefit is you just locked it in when UFO and RH tickers were discounted. I personally look at it right now, like UFO and PulseChain is extremely discounted. So if you lock in UFO share rates right now, which might not be as good as the UFO share rates 6 months ago, but you can't look at life like this all the time. That's like looking at Bitcoiners like, oh, this guy got in year 1 and I'm getting in year 4, right? Just because you got in year 4 of Bitcoin didn't mean you didn't get an awesome price on Bitcoin. At this point, you'd still be up hundreds of X's, right? So I look at it like, okay, well, UFO share rates are at all-time lows right now because PulseChain assets are at all-time lows and UFO is at all-time lows. And if from this point, let's say UFO does a 10x, yeah, your UFO share rate might be only up 4x, especially if PulseChain doesn't move with us. If PulseChain moves up with us, your UFO share rate will be up 10x and it will cost 10 times the amount for anyone to enter in. But even if you have some impermanent loss, your UFO share rates will never have impermanent loss, which keeps you earning at the rate that you entered in at. And then go ahead.
Let me ask you this question. So
that's the 5th grade. That's the 5th grade.
I was going to say that's too crazy for a 5th grader. But let's say that somebody bought at the top and they got their share rates at the top. Would it be beneficial for someone in that scenario to exit and re-add now? Would they gain shares?
They would gain shares. So that's what's nice about UFO is if you were to add LP at the top and then the price of UFO turns on you, just like how it turns on you to a positive side when it goes up, if it turns on you to a negative side, you can literally close your LP pool down free of charge, reopen it free of charge, and lock in a better UFO share rate. And now you're earning more APY due to impermanent loss in the opposite direction because you locked in a better UFO share rate.
Is there any negative to doing that?
There is no negative to doing that.
Well, let me ask you a question. Is there a way to I'm just making this conversation for people that are listening. Is there a way to calculate if it would be beneficial to exit that original share rate and re-enter?
Yeah, so you can go on to PulseX because the UFO farms are actually a smart contract built onto PulseX V2 liquidity providing. So when you're in the UFO farms, you can actually go on to PulseX liquidity and you can look at all your liquidity pairs within PulseX. They're just right there, built on top of PulseX. And you can see how many UFO tokens are in your share of the pool, right? And you can also see this on DBank, I'm pretty sure as well. You can see how many UFO tokens you have in your portion of the liquidity. And then you go to the Pulse or
pulsetgc.com. You go to pulsetgc.com and you go to the farming category or UFO, and then you go to UFO rewards, and you can see how many UFO shares you have. If you have more UFO tokens in liquidity than you have UFO shares, you can actually close that down, reopen it, and then lock in the higher UFO shares.
Thank you for the explanation. I would make a quick suggestion to Prairie. If you could show that on a short video, I think that would be super beneficial for new people.
The only difference would be that you're also locking in the difference in the tokens that you own. You own different tokens at that point.
Well, you could potentially have more UFO coming out depending on the ratio of whatever pool you were in.
Yeah, so you're not locking anything in that idea, Mando, because you already have that amount of tokens. That's your share, right? Like, so you already own that percentage of those tokens in that LP pool. All you're doing is closing it down and reopening it back up and locking in a better UFO share rate. You're not changing your position at all.
No, maybe I don't understand this piece, but he said, okay, if you open it up at the top, and now UFO has come down, right? Against whatever else. To be honest with you, though, guys, everything has come down. Like you're only pairing with RH tickers, so I would imagine that the actual impermanent loss, or one way or the other, isn't even like a big deal to even think about because they've kind of all come down together anyway.
Well, UFO and pTGC have had a little bit of retracement against Pulse, Pulse X. So there is opportunity there. It just depends on when you entered into the farms, right? I think we've probably round tripped since January. So if you made UFO farms anywhere from, February to beginning of March or something like that, so in that month, it might actually be very profitable for you to close it down and re-enter. Because if you can get 20% more UFO shares for your same position, you're not adding any more value, right? You're not having the DCA anymore, but you can get 20% more UFO shares or 10% more UFO shares. That's 10% more APY to your position, and you didn't have to even add anything.
Yeah, I think that creating some kind of a small video tutorial, like Mike is saying, showing our holders how to maybe take advantage of that would be really, really cool to help them through this. If they could lock in more shares, that'd be great.
I'll do it.
Yeah, and they're not having to even add to their position whatsoever. So it's actually like a DCA to your APY, but you don't have to add anything. You just have to click a few buttons. I guess gas. You have a little bit of gas.
Yeah, I think these little intricate pieces of the puzzle would be, like Prairie said, he'll do that video. I think that would be super beneficial because, it is a complicated system. And for newcomers that, let's say they're coming from Hex, they know, when you punch in that you're going to stake, your T-share rate, all that stuff. Over here, there's a lot to it, and you're very smart, very technical. And I think sometimes when you explain it, we assume everybody that understands impermanent loss and things like that and the share rates. But, breaking it down to its simplest form, I think would be super beneficial for a lot of the newcomers,
This is only if you set up LPs at the top new. Don't mistake it.
Yeah, that's, Mike, you kind of probably heard this, and I've said this a few times, but that's also why I believe that as prices move up with pTGC or UFO and RH tickers, I really don't believe a lot of people will be pulling this LP ever because they are so committed to these UFO share rates. You even saw this with PDI. People were fighting to give up those UFO share rates, with even the owner of the blockchain saying, guys, pool LP, get rid of, literally telling you, hey, this thing's a sinking ship, you need to get off. People didn't want to give up the UFO share rates. They were so willing to just take in all the PDI and let go of all their UFO because they saw more value with their UFO share rates than even their UFO, because they had a multiplier of, a 10x to it or whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing is for a user that maybe added the LP at the top, well, if they readjust their UFO share rates, well, they're readjusting it to the new prices. So when prices start going up, that makes it to where you DCA'd in technically lower, just like any DCA, right? Like if you bought into Hex at 5 cents and then it went to 1 cent, and then you, let's say, doubled down, and then it went back up to 5 cents. Well, when it goes back up to 5 cents, you can actually take out your initial position and you still have like a 5x, to where if you didn't take advantage of that DCA, when it goes back to 5 cents, you are literally break even. So the power of DCAing at lower levels is so powerful because it makes it to where when prices go back to where they once were, you can either stay in and you have a way larger position. Like in that event, they would technically have like a 6 times bigger position for just 2 times the amount of value. Or you can take back your whole entire initial and put that to the side, and you're now up 5x instead of just break even. And the cool thing about this UFO share way of doing it is you're kind of doing this without even having to add any more value, right? It's literally costing you absolutely nothing besides paying attention.
So let's walk through a scenario. I have that 1 million UFO LP'd with Pulse that I did within the first week of UFO's launch. There are 900 and basically a million UFO shares on the DApp, pulsetgc.com. And then if I go over to DBank, it tells me that I have in UFO 284,000 UFO. So in that instance, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would not be wise for me to unpair that LP because I don't have more.
Because you put it in at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have more than a 3x multiplier to your UFO shares right now.
Yes, for this LP position.
Correct. Yeah, in that position. So someone would need to come in with like 3 times the amount of value than your liquidity pool is even worth. So I don't know what your liquidity position's worth as of right now. It probably says on DBank if that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, this small position is worth $8.81.
Okay, yeah, so $8.81. But for someone to lock in, so your position's worth $8.81.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone to lock in those 1 million UFO shares, they would need 3 times that, right? So almost $27, $26 or whatever.
And then they need the Pulse on top of that.
Well, that LP position of $8 does include the Pulse, right? You weren't telling me the price of the UFO.
Oh, right.
You were telling me the price of the whole position.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
Yeah, and that's another important thing to think about is since you need both sides of it, if UFO does a 10x and PulseChain, let's say, does nothing, right? Let's say it just sits here. Well, once UFO does a 10x, you still need 10 times the amount of PLS because it didn't move up with UFO. So let's say you wanted to lock in early days a 100 million Pulse LP pair with, let's pretend it was 100 million UFO also. And then UFO goes up 10x. Well, if you just had that UFO already, like if you're just holding it, that's awesome because you're just still holding it, right? But for you, if you ever wanted to get UFO shares with that UFO, now you need to come up with 10 times the amount of PLS to lock in those same UFO shares. And I think that's what's important to pay attention to is when UFO is at a discount and PLS is at a discount, you're getting both sides of the pair at lows, which makes it the optimum low time to create UFO shares.
because once one or the other starts moving up, it's going to cost you that much more to create it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man.
So the benefit now to redoing it would be someone that bought, you know, let's say middle of February. They bought towards the top and they wanted to create an LP. If you bought, you know, second, third week of February, that might be something you want to look into.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I brought up, I think, William and maybe Joey again, just so you guys know, I need to shut this down in a couple minutes. I need to get going.
How much time do we got, Zen?
I have probably only like 5 minutes.
One quick question, if you can.
Go ahead.
So I was just curious, what do you guys think the hang up is for some of the OG Hex camp to get into this pTGC? Because all my friends, like Giga and my buddies, they all got onboarded by Hex OGs, and I'm like, guys, I'm starting to swap my core stuff into this thing. And they're like, oh man, I wouldn't do that. I would just hold on to the core coins. And I never understood, because it's like, we are holding on to the core coins, just a better return. Is it the tax token thing? I can't wrap my head around it. Do they just love that camp? Is it pride or what? Because they see these charts, they see what it does and can do. Just curious your thoughts. Are they slowly realizing?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but all those guys hold pTGC already, right?
No. Oh, well, I
Giga said he does.
Okay, well, I guess I could be wrong then. He always tells me that he doesn't love it, but I'm sure he's got a little bag of it because he's smart.
Like, man, the truth is, man, is that there's a lot of Hex OGs that are positioning in this.
That's what I fear. They're probably slowly realizing this monster.
There's a lot.
Okay.
We had one buy $100,000 the other day and stake it out for 10 years.
Beautiful.
William, I think depending on when you asked those guys, the FUD would have came from when we had our LPs tied to PDI. So there was a little uncertainty.
Got it.
When there was much more, when the pool was thicker. But you know, based on I spent the last 48 hours in spaces with Giga and Panos and all those guys, and they all speak highly of pTGC. And honestly, most of them actually said it will probably be the big winner of this cycle.
Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious your thoughts. Thanks, guys.
I'm gonna give you a follow now too, buddy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, Gig and I go way back. We're tattoo artists together in Ohio back in the day. He talks a lot of crap, but he's a good kid in real life. He just loves the troll.
Giga has a great voice.
He's brilliant. He is.
Yeah.
He loves the troll.
He does, man.
He's not like that in real life.
He's smart. And he's got a great voice.
And he's hilarious. That dude is hilarious.
He really is, man. He's a funny kid. We worked together for 12 years. Yeah. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Welcome up, Benjamin.
Hey, I just wanted to say this. This is my perspective on for William. I think most OGs don't have it still, right? There's a lot that do.
Right.
And part of the thing is everybody has been in their corner. Pulse, we've all been here the whole time. People got divided, right? And this is the same thing that happened to me maybe about 10 days ago. I was like, you know, maybe I should go look into pTGC some more, right? And everybody knows what it is, but because everybody's been divided, because maybe there's been a rise in it, but right now, people are, the dust is settling in PulseChain and the cream is rising to the top, right? And when people come over here and they start looking at it and they talk about this index, they talk about all these things, and super articulate, super friendly. It doesn't seem like there's any bullshit going on and numbers don't lie, right? So I've been really impressed the past 10 days. So no. Most OGs haven't bought it because half the people haven't because they've been in their camps, which means as the dust settles, that's why I think they're probably seeing more and more people coming in because it's a great time, you know, it's a reset in the price and everything. So that means there's tremendous opportunity because people ain't stupid.
Well, let me give you another way to
start to see the tide to turn for sure.
I'll give you another way to look at this. We really don't need them to come over. If they're going to pump the core coins, we win off of that anyways.
It's a win-win for sure.
Yeah.
There's also, you know, I have friends, you know, that I talk to that are OGs too, and some of them have targets lower. You know, they may not get it, but they have lower targets for entries just because some people, they just do, you know. But we did see when it went to like in the 8-to-1 ratio range, you know, we saw billions coming in, scooping it up at that ratio. So like, I think it, you know, it really starts to get scooped up around that range. Anybody else? Zen's gonna need to shut this down. Got probably another minute or two.
Well, I heard you guys stole the show yesterday when you went over to the Panos and KR space. How did that go? I wasn't there, but how did that go?
Let's just say everybody's on our team.
Yeah, it went well. I mean, Zen, you know, Coach and Zen kicked it off, and then Zen got rugged, and I spent another good 45 minutes to an hour going over technicals. A lot of devs. Haunted came in. Panos was in. A lot of, you know, older guys in there that been around asking questions and getting everybody's questions answered. And it's like you said, Benjamin, there's no hype. It's just giving people the information. It's just giving people the data, the KPIs, how it works, what's going on. People are starting to pick it up. They're starting to see what's going on, man. So, yeah, it went very well.
Well, hey, how does it feel to have the hottest drug on the streets right now? I'm just being funny, but, you know, things seem like they must be going very well once again, even in these bear times. So, congratulations.
We want everyone on PulseChain to win, man. You know, it's just that simple. So you build things to help people win, and that literally is the mindset. Zen, I think it's good. I know you probably got to get back to the kids and the wife. If we want to shut it down.
Yeah, sorry. I literally just kept my phone on because I had to hop in the shower because I'm going to make her late hanging out with my online friends. But
yeah, no, let's get it out of here.
William, I did hear your thing. I personally look at the PulseChain community in general, like it's been countlessly attacked by grifters and users. And I think it creates a situation where a lot of the OGs have their walls up. Me personally, I even have my walls up against a lot of things. And I personally believe that trust should not be given out like free, willy-nilly here or there. What I think a lot of people are waiting for is for us to earn trust, right? We're trying to let our code speak for itself, let our LP speak for itself, let our benevolence speak for ourselves. And eventually I do think a lot of OGs will come around to what pTGC and UFO is from us solely just earning the trust. Instead of asking for it, instead of hoping they give it to us, I think just putting our code, our money, you know, our fundamentals where our mouth is, and just letting the protocol speak for itself will earn the trust and the adoption of the PulseChain community as a whole over time.
Couldn't agree more, Zen. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And the truth is that, you know, people are coming in. It's like Benjamin said, you know, you come in, you start to grasp kind of just the cornerstone of how the system works. And then once your mind starts to grasp kind of those chief cornerstones, you really start to see what's going on with this. And it's hard to unsee it once you see it, man. So, guys, thank you so much for coming in. It's been a great space. A lot of new people coming up more, asking questions. We appreciate everybody. I'm going to shut it down. Let Zen get to the kids and the family. And we'll see you guys again soon.
See you guys. Everyone who came up, just want to say thank you for coming up and adding to the conversation. It makes it a lot more enjoyable hearing everyone's voice and just hearing everyone add to the conversation instead of me and Mando rambling. So I appreciate it, guys.
Have a good day.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's a wrap. Guys, thank you so much for showing up. It is appreciated. And wow, I got some good stuff about that UFO share rate. Yeah. A video would be needful. You know why? Because you guys can take advantage of, resetting your share rate. I did it once. I had one opportunity where I reset my share rate to get a little more. I didn't track how much more I got, but yeah, I took full advantage of that. So I have some notes. I'm going to record. I'm going to re-listen to that section, record a video, run it by a couple of guys, make sure we got everything in there that we could possibly get. And then I will upload it to my channel and you guys can, take a hard look at your wallets if you didn't get everything that you needed from that discussion. By the way, the discussion on share rate started at 2 hours and 41 minutes. So if you want to rewind, 2 hours and 41 minutes is when that conversation began. So you don't got to wait for a video from me. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend. We will see you again in Spaces on Monday. Oh, I'm doing a AMA tomorrow afternoon. It will be at 3 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow. I got to postpone it 1 hour. 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We'll do a presentation AMA on pTGC and UFO. Thanks for coming in. Have a great weekend.